more than familiar with at this point. But that extended orientation program was an opportunity for students to meet other new students in a facilitated conversation with an orientation leader, where specifically we got into deeper discussion around the issues of alcohol and drug use and abuse, sexual assault prevention, and diversity, equity, and inclusion at Penn State. And so we're really glad that we were able to take the foundation of virtual orientation over the summer and then extend that conversation and go a little bit deeper in person, creating some connections for those first-year students that joined us on campus to be able to do that. And we were able to deliver extended orientation to just over 5,800 new students, which was an 85% participation rate, which is pretty great if you're looking at kind of those events at the start of the semester. So we're really thrilled to be able to do that. I know that all of us are in the orientation world are very eager to kind of return to the more in-depth program that we've been able to provide in the past, but thrilled that even in this virtual environment, we were able to continue some portions of the interactive musical theater production that we implemented 2 years ago. We didn't get to do it as in-depth as we had hoped or had planned, but we were able to keep that, which was a new addition to the program last year. We are currently working through a whole bunch of scenarios to help us prepare for spring orientation, which is going to look pretty similar to the virtual orientation experience that we provided over the summer. And then preparing for what next summer looks like as we wait for a vaccine to really help us to determine the path of what we're most likely going to be able to do, but keeping our options open. So that's in short summary, kind of a highlight of what orientation looked like this past year. Some of the things we were able to include from orientation, but also some of the things that we were able to do with rather short turnaround. So I'll stop there in terms of what I have to share, and then yield my time to questions that might take us in a direction that you're more interested in learning more about.
Are there any questions for Dan? If there are, please raise your hand, and this is for representatives. Representative Bose?
Hi, Dan. Thank you so much for coming and speaking to us. I know it's always a pleasure. I'm Erin. I'm an at-large representative. My question is, there's been a lot of conversations lately around kind of adding to the new orientation programs, more educational pieces about the university itself, being like the board of trustees, learning more about like the inner workings of the university, and also adding components of cultural competency and general things like that. Is there any talk about that, or is there like a feasibility for the future of adding those types of educational programs?
Yeah, great question. I can say on the cultural competency front, that is always something that we're actively engaged in conversation about, and will continue to do so this year. At the moment, we are really looking at our orientation leader training program to really look to make sure that we're putting culturally competent orientation leaders out into the program to make sure that we're really creating those welcoming spaces that are so important to bringing new people into the institution, including some work on some of the anti-racist training that many of us have become more familiar with in the last couple of months and working that into the curriculum. And so in terms of building a culturally competent program, that begins with our staff, but then also continues with the programming we're allowed to do in the program. And so that's always something that we're part of when working with our campus partners to increase the concentration on that, but also to make sure that people understand what it means to be a member of this community and the responsibility that comes along with that. In terms of kind of better understanding the university structure and how it works, I can't say that I've been engaged in any conversations with anyone in particular about what that would look like. And we're always up for the conversation, but always being mindful that our program meets students in a really interesting transitional space where the capacity to take in information is certainly limited, and we need to be mindful about what information is going to help this student understand their part of the Penn State community and how they can get to those services and resources. And so always open for a conversation. I have not yet heard from anyone specifically about their interest in expanding that content, but we're always open to conversation and dialogue around things that people think should be included in the program.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Dan? And then just a reminder, you can raise your hand in the participants tab. All right, seeing none. Dan, thank you so much for coming in and speaking to us. We really do appreciate it. Feel free to stay if you'd like, but we also know that you may have a night ahead of you, so feel free to head out as well. But thank you so much for coming in.
Absolutely. And, since we didn't take the full 10 minutes, if I could just take 30 seconds before I turn it back over to you all. Most of the time that I've been in front of you, I've been in a different capacity as your state college borough councilman. I think it would be unfortunate for me to miss this opportunity to just acknowledge kind of perhaps what could for you could have been a very unexpected announcement right at the start of the semester. And my decision to resign from State College Borough Council was certainly not an easy one, and I need to assure you, as active and engaged students in student government and in your local community, it was the threat of disappointing you all or letting you down that kept me in the role longer than I probably should have been. It was an incredibly challenging summer for so many people, but on top of the death of my father 10 days before virtual orientation began, the ability to manage all of those things and to stay committed to my mental and physical health were just something that I had to eventually draw the line. And as a body that has been committed to mental health initiatives, I knew deep in my heart that you would understand and appreciate the importance of taking care of self. And so please know that I have serving you all was truly a delight in the capacity of being a State College Borough Councilman. I did not make the decision lightly, especially because I knew that working with you all so closely was such a spotlight of my experience. So I didn't want to pass up the opportunity to say thank you for the support that led me to that role. Thank you for the support in that role. Thank you for the challenge and the accountability that you provided. Please know that I will not stop working for and advocating for you, but I just must now do so in a different capacity than I was able to as I continue to care for self and to make sure that I'm able to care for the people around me that need me. So I just wanted to say thank you. And so I appreciate the extra few minutes just to acknowledge that, to thank you, and to look forward to keep working with you all in new ways.
Well, before you leave, I hope you take a look at the chat. There's an overwhelming amount of love for you. And I'll also reiterate that. Thank you so much for helping us. And in the past couple of years, we do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And with that, we will now move on to special presentation by Justice Samarth and Lemler with their decision of 15009. Whenever you are ready. Also, if you need to share your screen, please let me know so I can give you co-host privileges.
If you could, I'll share the decision like midway through the presentation. And then Jake, if you want to begin.
Yeah. My name is Jake. I am an associate justice on the judicial board. Before we begin, a lot of things I'm about to say, especially if you read the decision, might come as a surprise or a shock. Additionally, my opinions, my apologies, and everything I'm about to say mostly are my opinion. They do not reflect the opinion of the board, and they shouldn't reflect the opinion of the board. Some things Terrence's going to say reflect the opinion of the board, and some reflect him as well, and I want to make that clear. To start, I want to make it clear this was not an attack against Greek life. I am in Greek life. I love Greek life, and it saddens me so much that I contributed to something that has made Greek life feel like they aren't going to be represented or that no one cares, especially in UPUA. Yesterday, we had an extremely long meeting with members of various councils. And during that meeting, I heard a lot of things. And I heard a lot of things that I should have heard earlier, and I will get to that in a second. The first thing I want to bring up is that we received a complaint within the last half hour. And the J Board has decided that because of this complaint, we are putting an injunction in place against this decision, which means that while this complaint is being processed, the appeal is being processed, this decision will not go into place. It's suspended, and therefore no one is going to lose their seat. In my mind, I never wanted these groups to lose their seats long-term and made this decision for a short delay, and I will go into that in a little bit. However, with the injunction, it is my opinion, and it is what my hope, that no one will lose their seats overall. Some questions we have gotten. Why didn't you reach out to these groups in advance? Simply put, I messed up, and I am owning that. I believe that as a J-Board decision, this should have stayed within the judicial board, but that was wrong. There were external organizations that were highly affected by this, and I should have gone to them, because if I did, my decision might have been different. After speaking with council leadership, a lot of my opinions have changed. And a lot of what I wrote in that decision, I don't know if I would have written again. I realized how wrong I was about so many things. If I could have done this from the beginning, maybe a lot of this could have been prevented. And I am just truly sorry for not. This was a mistake on my part, and I'm owning this mistake. I made a wrong decision. I made an error with what I did, and I apologize to anyone affected about my error. Other question we got was, why now? During the summer, I did a complete review of the governing documents. During this personal review and going through the community group seats, I saw that there might be some problems with the Greek seats. I raised this to when we had an incomplete board, and again raised it when we had a complete board. On October 5th, the board considered the motion to revoke, had a lengthy debate, and tabled the discussion, after me and Taryn both created briefs, arguing our various opinions. These briefs were adopted with a 6-3 majority, and the decision was released. It was never my intention for these seats to be taken for a large amount of time. I wanted the decision out as soon as possible. In my mind, once the decision was made, the councils could make the necessary changes and get their seats back as soon as possible. I did not mean for this ever to look like I wanted the seats gone permanently. In my opinion, these seats are fundamental and hold a great place, and they should remain. However, there were certain violations that, in my opinion, needed to be taken care of, and in my mind, I wanted them taken care of as soon as possible. I recognize that people feel hurt, betrayed from this decision, and I'm truly very sorry. There are a lot of people that I'm trying to make amends to try to get forgiveness from, and to try to get their trust back, and I realize it is a long process. But to everyone in this chat room, I want you to know how truly sorry I am for what I did, for the mistakes that I made, and for how wrong I was in what I wrote. And I recognize what I did was wrong.
Didn't realize I was muted. Can everyone see the decision on their screen?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. So just to go over, again, to echo what Jacob said, I'm also very sorry that we went through this without going through a full hearing process and going through the necessary hearings to understand and listen to the groups involved, because this did a disservice to organizations and to UPUA at large. But I do want to explain the decision in its entirety, so at least we know what we're looking at and what we believed we could use to make this decision. So overall, the overarching decision was invoked under Article 7, Section 1.2, Clause 7 of the UPUA Constitution, which says the Judicial Board shall have the power to ensure every semester that RSOs representing community groups are recognized by the university and active, while also fulfilling the requirements set by the UPUA governing documents by communicating with the Office of Student Affairs. And then below that is Part A, where it says, J Board shall have the power to revoke community group recognition in the event that the RSO has ceased to fulfill vetting criteria listed in Section 9.5 of the bylaws and operational code. What we perceived were 3 violations. 1, under Section 9.5.2 for all organizations involved. Insofar they were all representing what we believe should be Greek life. We believe that they were all falling under this overall purview of Greek life in general. So seeing that they were all violating the criteria that said the organization cannot fall under the purview of an already codified community group that is recognized by the J Board and confirmed by the Assembly, we believe that by all these organizations representing Greek life, they violated that clause. Second, we believe there was a violation for the Multicultural Greek Caucus, identified under Section 9.5.2 of the Bylaws Operational Code and Clause 7. The same thing as purview, but we believe that since all 8 members of the member organizations of the MGC don't only just cast votes as organizations for the MGC representative, but also cast votes for either the UPUA or Latino caucus representatives, depending on their affiliation, because they have delegates in those caucuses. We believe that violates this criteria as well, insofar as they effectively get 2 representatives that the organization itself can elect. And then finally was a violation for IFC and PHC for not placing their, at least what we perceive, not placing their representatives on their e-board under bylaws section 9.5.1 clause 3 and Constitution Article 7 section 1.2 clause 7, which both emphasize compliance with the UPUA governing documents. And then the violation specifically is bylaws section 2.3.4 clause 6, where they must be an ex officio member or full member of the highest governing board of the organization they represent. And I know we're like well over 5 minutes, so I don't know if I should just stop and allow for questions, but if I can quickly say, if you can ask us questions specifically on where do we go from here and what can we do internally to resolve problems from this, I'm happy to answer those. I think those need some clarity.
Representative Scalzo is ahead of me. I will allow extended time simply because this presentation is pertinent to what's going on. So you are allowed to speak for, I will give it about like 3 to 4 more minutes, but if I feel like you guys are rambling, I'll ask you guys to wrap up, but I will give you more time.
Sounds good. So what I really want to address is where do we go from here? Like what's happening with these seats now? And following with that, what can we do internally to resolve the problems that kind of generated and came from this? So first, where do we go from here? As Jake said, there is an injunction. The decision is suspended. MGC, IFC, and PHC seats are going to stay in place for now. And there will be a rigorous hearing process by the J Board to appeal this. Now, obviously that sounds nonsensical insofar that the appeals process under our constitution means that there has to be a complaint filed towards the J Board. So in order to maintain any semblance of fairness, because we know that Jake obviously having raised the motion and pushed this forward, and me having my name as well in the opinion and having written this, both of us are recusing ourselves from those matters entirely. So we will not be participating in any hearings regarding this. And so hopefully the rest of the J Board left, which would be a 4-3 majority from the original decision, means 1 swing vote, would be able to then analyze the complaint that has been filed and properly treat it. What can we do internally to resolve things? One, this was uncharted territory for J Board in general. First of all, insofar that we try to invoke this right, and then following from that, the hearing process that we're about to encounter. So I think developing internal procedures for J Board is an incredibly important step from here on out for these processes that we haven't really had to use in the past. 2, IFC voiced concerns about the clause in the bylaws that requires representatives to be ex officio or full members of their organization's, quote, highest governing boards, because they're constrained by the National Interfraternity Council. So I believe that it would be important to pass an amendment that permits organizations that have those constraints to get representatives as long as they're able to ensure there's active communication or something with the board, even if they can't serve in it for those national reasons. That'll help ensure that organizations who might have those constraints can still join. Third, our appeals process is also terrible and needs to be fixed. This is going to be the first hearing in UPUA's history and certainly the first appeal. Several Big Ten organizations or Big Ten J Boards have set up appeals processes in one way or the other, and I think it's important that we look at that and put one in place to ensure that this doesn't happen again. And fourth, I think it's important to revisit the community group seat criteria because some of them are vague. And so if the board's interpretation is problematic, the straightforward resolution would be to cut some of them, specify or elaborate or explicitly codify certain organizations receiving seats regardless of the criteria. Obviously, that would require a lot of debate. That's entirely Assembly's matter, but I think that this is the first time the board has ever really analyzed those criteria, not just in this decision, but in the last one, the Wrecking Crew. Before that, J Board has never rigorously, even like meaningfully interpreted the criteria. If you look at the decisions, they're just rubber stamps. And so if this is really leading to blowback, it might be time to revisit and give those a more rigorous textual language in the governing documents. And that's it.
I want to briefly just finish by saying, growing up, I learned from my parents, if you make a mistake, you got to own up to your mistake, you have to apologize for your mistake, and then you have to try to rectify your mistake. I made a mistake. I was wrong. I was wrong on so many fronts, and I want to own up to that. And I apologize to anyone that I hurt in any way, anyone who felt like their voice was not counted, anyone who felt like we were trying to target Greek life, anyone who I might have lost the trust or the commitment from. I want to apologize to you. And I want to assure you that I will try to rectify this situation. I've already been in contact with the 3 council leaders and presidents of the councils to try to figure out our next steps. I want to work with them to try to make sure they don't lose their seats. Because remember, they aren't losing their seats. We currently have the injunction. I'm also, earlier today, I emailed Speaker Zhang to talk about further steps that we might be able to take, including amendments that might make sure this doesn't happen again, to either codify seats or to codify something under purview, saying that Greek life isn't a purview issue, and codifying IFC, Panhel, and MGC as not being in the same purview. That's something we could do. And all these other, working with the orgs to add just a line or two to their constitution that would make our decision null. I really want to work with everyone to rectify my mistake, because it was my mistake. I want to own up to it, and I want to try to make it better. And again, I am just so sorry.
All right, with that, I will allow a 10-minute period for questions. If I see that there are more, I will decide whether to extend time or not. But this question period is for representatives. I will allow open student forum for questions simply because, again, this is a pertinent issue. But with that, Representative Lascalzo.
Hi, this isn't really a question, but I want to give some context about some of the stuff that has happened on the legislative side of things that I think is very pertinent to this things that have this decision. Before this, am I allowed to talk about that? It's important to the matter.
I will allow it as long as it's not like super outwinded, but yeah.
Yeah. Me and Chair Rodriguez were, before this decision even happened, working on revisions to the community group guidelines. We had identified some of these issues. We didn't realize that there was any active cases going on, and we were currently working on making revisions in order to help solve these issues, as we realized that the judicial board has the power to revoke community group seats based off of the vetting criteria, and some of the vetting criteria is very vague while others are very specific. And I just want you all to know that we have pointed out these issues, and we are currently actively working on essentially trying to fix the Constitution and bylaws in order to make things a bit more sensible with the removal process and the application process and the vetting criteria going forward. If any representatives want to help us on that, I would gladly like more people to work with us on it.
All right, Representative Tierney.
Tierney at large. I have two questions, if that's okay. Okay, so question one, is it in order to ask who filed this appeal to the J board originally that was the result of this decision?
So if you're talking about the decision that we made, that was strictly Justice Lemler moved during a meeting to invoke what we believe was a right under the Constitution that we can take up without a complaint or without a hearing. I think that is partly the nature of the complaint, so to come before the board to then realize if that's actually the case or not under a fair interpretation of the governing documents. But Justice Lemler made the motion, we debated it, we brought briefs, anyone who could. Justice Lemler and I were the only ones that did, and then we considered it from there.
Okay, and then I guess my second question is if you two were the ones that originally wrote the decision, the majority opinion decision, what's the reason that you would then recuse yourself in the appeal?
So I can answer this question. We are recusing ourselves from basically the decision. The appeal is being made to the J board as a whole. It's not really an appeal. How it's listed in UPUA is, let me get to the actual word. It's a complaint. The complaint was filed against the judicial board as a whole. And based on precedent from last year, when a complaint was filed against a different member of the judicial board, that member recused themselves. We obviously don't think we can have the entire judicial board recuse themselves, because the judicial board is who has to rule on this, which our judicial board sees as something ridiculous and something we need to change, because we need to have a process by which if someone wants to appeal or make a complaint about the judicial board, not the judicial board is ruling on it, which seems obvious right now, but that's not something we have. So we see as the best step forward for myself and Justice Samarth to recuse ourselves from making any decisions based on any decisions voting for, voting against, anything to do with the appeal, if that makes sense.
Representative Bose.
Erin Bose at large. First of all, I want to thank you for taking accountability in the measure. I think that says a lot. I also, my question is, I think we can all agree that there are a lot of inconsistencies and different holes that we need to fill within our own governing docs. But the way that it's currently written, my question is for further clarification. Since there is an inherent difference between innate identity, such as gender, race, etc., and student identity, currently under the interpretation of identity, was student identity taken into account in the group community group seat decision? And kind of how would the judicial board, in your guys' opinion, if any other members are here as well, define identity?
So I'll take this because I think it's from my concurring opinion. I first want to just emphasize that's a concurring opinion. It holds no water when it comes to the actual manifestation of this decision. And only one other justice joined me in it, so it's a clear minority on the board. My understanding was effectively that when I took this term, and I was looking at overarching RSO specifically, I took that to mean effectively RSOs that are representative of some sort of identity on campus, whether that does include student identity to me. But what that means when it says student identity is more like veteran status, adult learners, things that directly affect every experience in the classroom, in extracurriculars, in housing, every aspect of being at Penn State. And so insofar that I took overarching to mean that all encompassing, I believe that all RSOs, like Greeks, like any organization on campus, holds personal interests that they care about. That's why they exist. I took that overarching RSO to mean organizations that effectively have interests that encompass everything that is Penn State. And so for students of color, like UPUA Caucus, those overarching concerns, the concerns that make up everything at Penn State, are central to their advocacy and to their work. And I think the same would apply to the veteran organization, same would apply to like an Indigenous Peoples Student Association, same would apply to these organizations that organized around that type of identity, including veteran status, adult learners, so on. But I don't believe that Greek life meets that criteria because ultimately it's just to finish, just because I don't believe that Greek life has that same manifestation as those statuses and identities.
I want to make it clear that I patently disagreed with that concurring opinion and did not want that concurring opinion even when the decision was released. While I trust and respect Justice Samarth, we have very different opinions when it comes to what Greek life is at Penn State. I believe that Greek life, it's an all-encompassing thing that can be an identity of a student. However, I do recognize that there is an inherent difference between Greek life and some of these other community group seats, what they do, such as the Black Caucus seat. Something that I would be for in the legislation, and I would love to work with the Assembly to try to make this so that it can go through the Assembly and the J board as fast as possible, is almost codifying these Greek seats as something separate from the community group seats so that they have either different criteria or they're just codified in general. This is something I raised to the speaker earlier today. I feel like this would get rid of a lot of these issues. And because I see these councils as closer to the colleges, they advocate for groups, for students who file under them. They advocate for students who participate in them. That's why I see them closer to the colleges than I do the other community group seats like the Black Caucus seat or the Latinx caucus seat. So that's what I am hopefully going to try pushing for. That's what I want to work with different people in the Assembly, Speaker Zhang, members of IFC, PanHel, and MGC, and various other concerned people to try to get something like that passed. That would be my ideal.
And just to clarify, I would agree with Jake. I think that in the interpretation that the councils are closer to the colleges than I think what the criteria of the group seats get at. I'm not trying to get rid of Greek seats because I don't believe they should be here. It's just because I don't believe the interpretation of that criteria that we have allows them to fit in. And so I think Jake's solution perfectly works.
Representative Robertson.
Hi, I also have like a two-pronged type question. It was, can you talk about what was discussed during the meetings with the various Greek Council leadership that might have changed your opinion like dramatically on the decision? And then I also wanted to ask if there's a precedent for the J board to order an injunction like this.
So yeah, I'm the one who had the wild change of opinion, so I'm going to answer that question. It was a lot of things. We had over 2-hour conversation with various presidents of the councils, Office of Fraternity and Sorority Life, and some members of those councils. I've also had personal conversation with the president of IFC, emails with PanHel, a lot of these different things. And I was wrong about what I saw as representing Greek life. I did not take into consideration all the different factors that go into what these representatives do when they come to a decision, who they're representing, why they do what they do. I didn't see the fraternities of IFC, that Greek life, being as fundamentally different from the fraternities under the MGC, or the sororities being that fundamentally different. However, after my meeting, I realized how wrong I was. I realized that I should have reached out to those respective councils to get their input, to find out what they think, what they really believe, not just rely on documents and publicly issued statements such as websites, which is what I did, but actually reach out to them, because I think this all could have been avoided, and that was a mistake that I'm going to have to live with. However, after talking with them about their personal experiences and what they see themselves as doing, I didn't see any other option for me than to admit that I was wrong and to change my opinion, which is what I feel like is the only right thing I can do at this point, and it's the only thing I can do at this point. No, could you just remind me what your other question was?
I can respond to the precedent question.
Okay.
For injunction. The answer is no. I don't even believe there's real precedent for hearings in general, especially appeals. So, and the injunction would come with an appeal. So there is no precedent. We believe it's an implicit power of the J Board in having these hearings to be able to intervene when there is something that we are hearing a complaint against that seems rational to us. And so that's why the J Board approved that injunction.
Representative Brown Sorensen.
I just have a quick question on what exactly about the decision Justice Lemler is changing his mind about. My understanding was that like the primary reason for the temporary removal of the Greek life seats was that there were violations, like they committed some violations. So I'm not sure exactly like why that would change, because it's not like an opinion when someone objectively breaks a rule. So like if you could just elaborate on what exactly you're changing your mind on, that would be really great. Thank you.
Sure. So my argument, what I originally saw as the problem was the purview argument, and that's what I changed my opinion on. Originally, I had seen them, because they didn't have decisive language under their UPUA rep and had various languages in certain documents and online, that they could have fallen under the same purview. And that is what I've changed my mind on. I no longer believe that. I believe I made a mistake in assuming that they were under the same purview, and I made a mistake in not contacting them to rectify that kind of situation, that kind of what I had in my head at that point. The other two issues are plain black and white issues. However, I believe those issues are much, much easier dealt with. A few lines in a constitution, a little bit of changes here and there will make those issues go away very easily. Especially, I had a conversation with Nate today about certain ways to get go around the needing to have the member on the exec board. I'm more than willing to work with any of these councils to figure out how exactly to get around some of these issues, to make sure these issues are no longer there so they can get their seats back, or work with these councils to get legislation passed, which I just talked about, which codifies these seats so that these aren't issues and these issues never have to be brought up again.
And I guess just to add to that, part of as for the MGC issue, where we could resolve that, because I think we hadn't talked about possible resolutions, is that simply asking caucuses if it's possible to amend constitutions so that Greeks can't vote in the caucus UP representative elections would get rid of that problem entirely. I think probably the root here is not so much that the violations like don't exist or something, but really that we didn't engage them in conversation prior to making this ruling. And so that's obviously very problematic. And that like I own up to, Jake owns up to entirely. We should have reached out so we could make those modifications of like a line in a constitution rather than kick them out the assembly entirely.
Representative Bose.
Hi, sorry. Just one follow-up question also. Since this is concerning Greek life and Greek communities, why was NPHC not in the discussion? And what was the reasoning for only including MGC, Panhill, and IFC?
So NPHC was originally discussed, and it was discussed at length. However, when we looked at NPHC and we looked at what they had publicly available, What they represented, especially what they talked about, they represented directly on their website, was different from what the other councils represented. And it was our determination that they didn't fall under the same purview based off of historical significance and historical differences between the councils. However, I would like to reiterate that at this point, my opinion has changed about the entirety of that, of purview and everything under that. And yeah, that's all I can say.
Are there any other questions for Justice Lemler or Smarth? Representative Robertson?
Hi, my question is just to follow up to that last one. Can you just talk about, like, if you have an example of like specific language that exists within like IFC, MGC, and PHC organizations that's similar, compared to like why NPHC was excluded? Like, what does NPHC do differently from IFC, MGC, and PHC?
If you give me 1 second, I can bring up my brief so I can read what I wrote. This might take a second. Sorry about this. Additionally, I want to emphasize that this was my opinion and is no longer my opinion. As anything, opinions change when you receive more information, and that's what happened in this case. It's information I should have had before filing this brief, before writing this document, but it isn't. I'm just going to give 2 brief examples. I don't want to take up too much of the time. Again, sorry, my internet's being a little slow right now, but I'm trying to get this brief up, which is where I specifically mentioned NPHC.
I believe there's just one more question from speakers on, but after that, I'll be moving on to open student forum after that.
Yep. Real quick, this is something that a director forwarded to me, so I'm just passing along a question. But they wanted to know whether you had a conflict of interest with your decision also being as part of a fraternity when you made decision 1509, and if so, why didn't you recuse yourself from the first vote?
So all the members of the judicial board were aware that I was a member of Greek Life during the entirety of this decision. I never made that a secret. I never tried to hide that. But I saw this incorrectly. I saw this as not a matter about my fraternity, but rather about IFC. And as someone who is not a member of IFC and doesn't, I mean, technically a member of IFC, but not a voting member, not anything to do with IFC or never really even met IFC leadership, I saw it as something completely different. And again, that is something that was wrong. This is something that I should have recognized that this would come back on me, could come back on my fraternity. And for that, I have already privately apologized to my president, to my brothers, and for what I've done and for what might come from in the future. I have the brief up now, if I can scroll down. So from the Panhellenic Council, specifically on the website, it talks about the mission and it says, the mission of the Pennsylvania State University Panhellenic Council is to provide leadership, sisterhood, scholarship, and service to the Penn State Greek community. That emphasis on the Greek community was something that I saw and I not latched onto, but recognized as something they might be going towards the Greek community in general. NPHC, when they talk about what their mission is, it's to foster a more stable environment on campus for local councils, provide a forum for dialogue, and provide training for and management of its respective councils, which I saw as a different purpose. And again, I have my opinion about Panhell and Panhell representing Greek life is wrong. Panhell represents its sororities, its sorority organizations, and does not fall under the purview, in my opinion, now of IFC or MGC. They have their own representative and they need their own representative.
Representative Ron Sorensen.
This should be a really quick question, but I forgot that you mentioned this at the beginning of your presentation, that you're involved in a frat yourself. Do you believe that your involvement with this fraternity is the primary reason why you changed your decision? Like, okay, thank you.
My involvement with my fraternity has no bearing on the fact that I changed my decision. In fact, the biggest reason I changed my decision was statements from Rachel Cook yesterday. Sorry if I got that name wrong. The president of the Panhellenic Council. After speaking with her and reflecting on that conversation, I realized that I had made a mistake, and I realized that what I had done was wrong. In fact, I had not talked to my fraternity until after I'd already changed my mind. And I fully put out an apology email and everything about that before I made contact with my fraternity in general, or at all. So I want to make that abundantly clear.
All right, with that, I'm going to close the floor for questions with this special presentation. Thank you both for giving that, since it is very pertinent for tonight. Going down the agenda, we now have open student forum. Just as an explanation for anyone that's new, this is where any students who would like to speak to the UPUA and its representatives can. How you can do so is if you go to the participants tab and raise your hand. There's a raise hand feature that you can use. I believe I can allow you to speak as an attendee. We will hear your voice, and seeing as there is still like over 20 Adeline Mischlers, it's vitally important that you state your name in the beginning, so we have that for our minutes and we know who's speaking or who we are speaking to. So please, if you are an Adeline Mischler, please state your name. Along with that, for everyone that's speaking in open student forum, please state your name and your academic college, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak. I'm going to be fairly strict with that time constraint, simply because my job is to keep the efficiency of the meeting. So if I mute you, I'm not trying to be mean. That's just me enforcing the rules. But with that, open student forum, Parker, if you could state your name and your academic college, I believe I can allow you to speak as well. You should be able to speak.
Okay. Hey, everyone. I'm Parker Hamill. I'm a senior in Schreier's Honors College, studying history and political science. The reason that I'm here is to, well, now that I know that this motion is being postponed a little bit for the Greek life decision, I'm here to seriously urge you not to follow through with that. And I think with my background, I'm pretty qualified to speak on the matter. I'm also a longtime member of Greek life. I've been in an IFC organization for most of my college career. So looking at the U.S. history, the U.S. declared independence from Britain in 1776 for the primary purpose that the colonists paid taxes and had to follow, British laws and were affected by the Parliament's decisions, but did not have any representation in the British Parliament themselves. So they created a system of government that allowed the citizens to both run for government and vote for office. Now, originally it wasn't the most fair system at all. And nowadays we take a lot of pride as Americans in all the civics and civics classes in high school, middle school, even at Penn State itself. We pride ourselves in the historical expansion of minority representation in the United States. And the UPUA itself is a government largely based on the American model of government. On the other hand, there are some governments who have actively and openly worked to suppress minority representation in government and any form of dissenting opinion in general. A few of the leaders of these regimes, Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un,
20 seconds.
Fidel Castro, Joseph Stalin. Greek life makes up 17% of the PSU population, which is a sizable minority. We have standards of excellence that are much greater than the general student body. Our grades are better and we're more active in the community than the general student body. And our student fees fund the UPUA, and we're just as affected as other students by UPUA decisions. Denying us representation is tyrannical, authoritarian, and un-American. I'm done.
Thank you. All right, with that, next on the queue is an Adeline Mischler. If you could state your real name and your academic college, you should be able to speak as well. I believe your mic's on, so you should be good. I can also promote you to panelist if it's just, if there's like a difficulty, but I will have to put you back as an attendee. Nate, I think that's you. If you'd like to please state your name and your academic college, you'll have 2 minutes to speak. Okay, we'll come back to you. I will have to put you back as an attendee though. All right. Give me a second. Jeremy McGovern, if you could state your name and your academic college, you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Hey everybody, it's good to see all your faces again. My name is Jeremy McGovern. I'm with the College of Engineering, also part of Penn State Greek Life. So the case in 15-09 stated that the MGC, IFC, and PHC fall under purview of one another, so we can't partake in UPUA. I think it's a little ridiculous that organizations aren't allowed to keep each other's best interests in mind. That idea indisputably goes against the philosophy of the UPUA, and you're taking away our representation over some vague and poorly stated policy that affects 17% of the student body. But apparently that doesn't even matter because the Greek life doesn't fall under any kind of identity. It's only some kind of secondary interest. By the way, I know a couple million people who would disagree with that. However, if you fall under a particular college within Penn State, that constitutes an identity, but I can't identify within a fraternity. Sorry, I'm a little sick. So really what you're trying to say is that studying a certain subject constitutes an identity, but a unified belief system and joint set of values doesn't. And that someone preparing themselves for a career to make a salary gives them an identity, but raising tens of millions of dollars for philanthropy doesn't. Just hearing that really makes me sad. And even though it's kind of coming off as some kind of technicality from your end, it's just really inconsiderate. And finally, yeah.
20 seconds.
Finally, the IFC's constitution does include the IFC representative on the executive board. However, right, it's also stated on the 5th page. That's all I have to say right now. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Rachel, if you could state your name and your academic college, you'll have 2 minutes to speak and you should be able to talk now.
Hi, I'm Rachel Cook from the College of Education. I also am the president of Panhellenic here, and I'd like to make that very clear that that is a huge piece of my identity. So for anyone who's suggesting that that is not a piece of my identity, I ran for this position. I've worked tirelessly for the past year. Before that, I was sorority president, and that was a huge piece of my identity. So to suggest that my organization and my role is not an identity piece of my life, then no one should be here, because all of you guys represent your organizations and you classify it as part of your identity. So that just dismisses your entire presence in this meeting as well. I would like to thank Jacob a lot for owning up to what happened. I know that I had a very heated discussion with him yesterday, and I know that we've talked about it, but I do want to say thank you, because coming from another leader, it is a lot to own up to something in front of a large group of people or even one person. So I do want to say thank you. I also just want to make it very clear that moving forward, I know that Greek life isn't necessarily the most amazing thing to everyone. I ran for this position knowing that, but I ran for this position wanting to change people's minds. And I know that my board and IFC's board and MGC's board and MPHC's board within the past year has done everything they can to change the perception that Greek life has in this Penn State University. And to hear from people who are solely elected to represent the entire student body organization and the entire student body's interests, that a large part of their population doesn't actually matter, whether or not that's the intention of what this was, that's inevitably what it was, is so concerning concerning the organization it's coming from. I am more than happy to continue working with everyone. I'm more than happy to continue these relationships because that was my goal in my term. But I do want you guys to see the hypocrisy in this. And that is all I have to say.
Thank you. All right, Nebraska, you will have 2 minutes to speak. Please state your name and your academic college, and you should be able to speak.
Hello, can you hear me, Lexi?
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. I'm Nebraska Hernandez. I am a senior majoring in geography. I am the Secretary of Minorities and EMS and the university, I am University Director for Latino Caucus. So I have been on this campus since August of 2017 and continually, time and time again, UPA shows that it does not have the best interests of the multicultural community at Penn State in mind. If an unelected J board, because y'all are not directly elected by the student body, can swoop in and determine any community seat, for example, like Latino Caucus, is suddenly not constitutional enough, it can remove it. That's power hungry. It's completely possible that a future UPUA can remove the 3 caucus seats because we have to reapply every 2 years. And tell me, what does it say that a predominantly white student government can suddenly decide that the multicultural community seats are suddenly not okay and deny that application? It is the embodiment of white supremacy. Also, I want to state that the white Greek life members here did not show up to pack the hub 2 years ago, again, to support the 3 caucus seats. So tonight is very humorous to me. I'm pushing for this current UPUA to ensure the 3 caucus seats are permanent fixtures in this organization long after we all graduate. At the end of the day, the UPUA should be pushing to work with the multicultural community the same way we are pushing to work with them. You don't get a $139,000 budget to sit on your asses. Estoy cansado de esta mierda. Thank you, Lexi, for letting me speak.
All right, give me a second. Ethan, you'll have 2 minutes to speak. Please state your name and your academic college.
Hi, so my name is Ethan Marsh. I am a senior kinesiology major in the College of Health and Human Development. I am also the executive vice president for the Penn State Interfraternity Council. I had a lot prepared tonight, but a lot of it was answered by Jacob. And Jacob, I want to echo what Rachel said, and I appreciate you owning your mistake and acknowledging that it was an egregious demonstration of unprofessionalism to not speak with us beforehand about this decision. The one point I do want to make real quick was the point about the ex officio member of our organizations. While our IFC UPUA representative is not a member of our executive board, the definition of ex officio is by virtue of one's position. And it in no way indicates what exact position within an organization this must be. And it's clear in our bylaws that the IFC UPUA representative is inherently an ex officio member due to the fact that it is an elected position. So again, while it is not a member of the executive board, it is a position that is elected by members of our chapter presidents, and it is a highly coveted role and one that is held with great respect. So I very much disagree with the point that it is not an ex officio member of our organization. That's it for me.
Thank you. And Caitlin, if you could state your name and your academic college, you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Can you all hear me? Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Caitlin Martin with the College of Engineering, and I serve as the Vice President for Finance for the Pan-Hellenic Executive Council. I believe that it's important to make this point as there were 6 justices that voted in this decision, even though Justice Lemler at least has changed his opinion on this matter. I will be speaking in regard to the claim made and passed by the Justice Board, the 3 councils, IFC, PHC, and MGC, Its main purpose is to represent the Greek community at Penn State and therefore cannot all fall under the purview of an already codified community group that is recognized by the Judicial Board and conferred by the Assembly. The three councils have distinct, unique characteristics that inherently require individual representation. It can be seen that the voice that each council has is unique to the organizations we oversee rather than one shared Greek community. We represent the diverse groups that comprise of the Greek community, but to overlook and group our needs together is seen as irresponsible from an organization that is supposed to represent all the facets that make up our student body. There is no governing board that represents all four councils, and that is a direct result of our differing attributes and perspectives. Again, I believe this has been made clear through Justice Lemler as well. With this being said, I would like to specifically bring up the unfairness and disregard for the Multicultural Greek Council. This group already has underrepresentation within our university, and to remove their voice within the assembly is further silencing minority groups on our campus. Our diversified voices all deserve to be heard within UPUA. Finally, I would also like to speak on my appreciation to Justice Lemler and Justice Samarth for their apology, taking accountability, and willingness to understand our perspectives, and I hope that this does better both UPUA and our councils at the end.
Thank you. There's an email, but I think that could be Nate again. So Nate, please state your name and your academic college. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. I don't know if it's just me, but I don't think your mic is working still. What I can do, I don't know if you would like to do this. I can promote you to a panelist and you can leave a chat with what you wanted to say. I don't want you to not have any time at all. So I'll promote you to a panelist. You have that option open. But while, if you do want to type it out, since your mic isn't working, we do have 2 more people to speak. And while they're speaking, feel free to type it out and put it in the chat for all the rest of the panelists to see which are the representatives. But down on the queue, we have Lex. If you could state your name and your academic college, you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Lex Burke, College of Com. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm joining from my phone in the car, so I wasn't sure about the connection. I don't want to take too much of your time. I really appreciate the justices who came forward and thought more about their decisions. I really appreciate that and apologize for what they did wrong. One thing that I think was also egregious was the fact that they used the Panhellenic website as kind of a rule of what we stand for. I feel like that's on par of like looking at our Instagram to kind of see like what we stand for. And I think they should have looked more closely at our governing documents instead, which clearly line out that we are representatives of over 23 organizations, different organizations of women on campus. So thank you so much, guys, and have a good night.
Thank you. Actually, there was an Adeline Mischler that had their hand raised. If you could raise your hand again, I may have accidentally lowered it. There you go. I know you're not Adeline, but if you could state your name and your academic college, you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. All right, cool. So I'm not Adeline. My name's Eduardo Melendez. I am in the College of Liberal Arts. I'm also the president of the Multicultural Greek Council. I just want to say, first and foremost, thank you for, apologizing, admitting to your mistakes, for, this issue that has occurred. But I just wanted to say that, not just me, but just like the community, we just disappointed because this just reminds me of the caucus seats when we had to go fight for them. And, one of the reasons why we took, or MGC was taken off of the representation was because we fall under the caucus seats. But that doesn't mean that like we within our council have ideas, have votes, have a voice. So, to me, that was kind of disappointing. And, I know it was a mistake, but us putting our faith into UPUA as students, you guys represent us. Something as simple as being able to communicate with us and talk to us about our councils, I think could have been a lot, like that could have been like a no-brainer. So I just wanted to say that, just, try and do better in the future so this doesn't happen again. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe President McKay actually has Nate up on his phone since his mic isn't working. So President McKay, when you are good to go, you can unmute yourself, and then I'll allow Nate to speak for 2 minutes.
Yeah, hi. First of all, sorry about that, guys. My mic is just not working. I'm not sure why. I guess I clicked on the Adeline link that everybody else did. But my name is Nate Brodsky. I am a senior in the Spiel College of Business. I am the current IFC president. So I just want to first off just kind of clear the air on a couple things here. Obviously, there are separate entities here, okay? We aren't one governing body, and all of that could have been cleared up through simple communication between the J board and the council executive boards like IFC, PANL, MGC, and even MPHC. Although we all work in unison and have been working together especially strongly this year, we all have our own separate documents and our own separate governing documents that we could have easily provided as your evidence. And that's really where my mind goes, is what necessarily led to this decision, because it was in consideration for months, and nobody from my executive board, not myself, nobody from Panhellenics board, nobody from MGC's executive board, and nobody from NPHC's executive board was reached out to at all. First time I heard about it was when everybody else did, which was yesterday when we got the email saying that our seat was removed. Now, I think this all could have been prevented if we all took the opportunity to, what I see as a golden opportunity, to further the relationship between UPUA and the IFC and the other Greek councils by just simply working together to fix these issues. If an issue is, obviously, I can't speak on behalf of Panhellenic, but I just want to point out the issue that if there's a simple phrase or words on their website that is not up to the UPUA bylaw standards, I don't understand what's so hard about reaching out to them and letting them know about that, and they could just simply make an edit within the day. Clearly, I can speak on behalf of our own council. Ethan, thankfully stepped up and read specifically that we never had any of these claims that we said, we represent Greek life as a whole. It clearly states on our front page of our website and in the IFC bylaws and constitution that we publicize on our website for everybody to see that we represent the IFC fraternity chapters only.
20 seconds.
Thank you. And then Ethan also made the point that the UPUA executive aficionado is actually in our document. But again, this all could have been prevented with simple communication. And I do want to bump that represents a lot of unprofessionalism. And I hope that, since obviously this is early in your young careers, that, post-college when, we all move out in the real world, that these communication issues or barriers that you seem to have are fixed for yourselves. That is all I have to say. I do have a question for Jacob and Taryn, if I may.
I'll allow it, yeah.
Awesome, cool. So, and this is a question that I've still been asking and hasn't been answered. And it all goes back to the evidence. What information and evidence was used in this decision process to lead to which was mostly accurate interpretations made that obviously made these decisions?
I'll give you guys a little bit to answer, but again, please be as brief as you can.
So again, I'll start off by answering this, and I want to say that what I did was incorrect, and just want to put that out there. However, when we're talking about evidence, we looked at, again, documents that you have submitted in the past for community group seats, websites, your public statements, but also one thing that we looked at is very often when UPUA considers legislation in regards to Greek life, they don't consider it in regards to IFC, PanHel, and MGC. They consider mostly legislation that is in regard to Greek life and looking at Greek life together. So when we look at the different councils, I originally saw them as representing when that legislation goes, they all advocate for Greek life and therefore all advocate for the same thing. However, again, after talking with you, Nate, after talking with Rachel, after talking with Eduardo, after talking with all these people, I have come to the realization that I was wrong and that you do represent different things and distinct things.
All right, and with that, I'll keep moving down. With Celeste, if you could state your name and your academic college, you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Hi, my name is Celeste Good, and I am in the College of HHD. I was the past president of QTPOC, which is Korean Trans People of Color, and I would love to talk about the lack of awareness of the intersectionality of the subject at hand and what happened. UPUA is supposed to represent the whole of the Penn State community, and I don't think that a judicial board should be able to tell other organizations if they are or aren't a part of the PSU community and their importance in it. I would love QTPOC to somehow have a seat someday because we deserve a seat. We have been told that we don't deserve a spot because people in our organizations hold a seat in other organizations, whether that be Black Caucus, Opeta Caucus, Latino Caucus, or Lions Pride. Just because QTPOC has people in different organizations does not mean that we have had a voice in student government, because as we know, the black seat for UPUA could be straight. So like for us to not have a voice just because our intersectionality is crossed, I would just love to see us have a seat. And when we talk about POC and the MGC, like we just fought for our seats, and these are seats we shouldn't have had to fight for. We should have already had them. So when clarifying about, like what happened with like this Greek life and MGC thing, it's like you have to understand how intersectionality plays a huge part in being a student here, and especially when you're an underrepresented student, because just because I have a Asian identity doesn't mean because there's someone who is in an Asian seat has a seat, like my queer identity is not going to be brought up. And the same thing with Lions Pride. Lions Pride has a seat, but I'm a queer person of color. So my voice, we are in a more underrepresented and more marginalized group of people. And just because we share many different intersectionalities doesn't mean that because someone who is white and queer has a voice means that a queer person of color has a voice. And I think that's something you should look into in the future. Yeah, and that's all I really had to say.
Thank you. All right, Shay, if you could state your name and your academic college, you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shay Davis, College of Liberal Arts, and I serve as the Vice President for Standards on the 2020 Panhellenic Executive Board. My position focuses on all the Panhellenic governing documents, both modeled by our governing organization, which is referred to as National Panhellenic Council, NPC, as well as the general Penn State University guidelines. So today I would just like to dissect the argument claimed by Justice Lemler and Justice Samarth in that the Penn State Panhellenic bylaws do not include their community seat representatives as members of their highest governing boards. So the Panhellenic Council has never had an issue regarding this since they were granted a seat. Our council does not determine the positions on our board, as that is determined by our governing organization, NPC. So in our standing rules document, which is currently undergoing some editorial review, it does in fact outline what our duties of our elected UPUA representative does. In our standing rules, the standing rules are our bylaws dedicated to our unique collegiate Panhellenic Council, which differs among every university. So our bylaws are secluded to only providing how our organization is run, determined by MPC. One can observe that the Panhellenic Standing Rules Article 7, Section 3, that our representative serves as an ex officio member to our organization and directly reports to and is in regular communication with the Panhellenic president, which does not violate the UPUA bylaws and operational code, to my understanding. This section of our standing rules has not been modified since our seat was added to the UPUA, so how can this be an issue now? Revisions can easily occur regarding to our standing rules, which is something that we wish would have been communicated to us earlier than hearing about it in the violation yesterday, after our seat had been revoked already. As well as this, the correct documents were not referred in the opinion, which again would have been easily corrected if a conversation surrounding this would have occurred. There was zero transparency with this decision, which directly goes against the overall mission of the UPUA Association.
Thank you. Give me a second. All right, and now I will go to the raised hands that are in the panelist portion. Just as like a note going forward, I'm always going to click on the attendees first for them to speak at Open Student Forum, simply because you guys have more speaking privileges on the floor than them. So I will now move on to panelists with Representative Meter. You state your name, your academic college, you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Hi, actually this isn't Lakin Meter, this is Kathy Zhao. I'm calling from Lakin's computer. I am the first year exec officer, and I'm in SMEAL, and I served as the old Pan-Hellenic chair last year, and I just want to say that it changed like my entire perspective on Penn State. It's so sad to see like individuals wanting to rid the UPUA of these seats, because like it's indisputable that they're like a huge part of our community. So I just want to say, like, think about the individuals you've impacted, not just like the seats themselves. These are your future friends and the people you worked with. We are, like, we say that a lot, but we are means achieving more together, and this just doesn't exemplify that. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for clarifying. Representative Robertson.
Hi, everyone. I want to thank you all for coming to speak to us today. And I wanted to say that I'm actually a little disappointed about some of the things that I've heard. I think it's incredibly insensitive actually to say Greek life needs seats in the UPUA for the exact same reasons the cultural caucuses and Lion Pride need seats. And I want to specifically thank Nebraska for speaking earlier, because I also entirely agree with what was said. I understand that the case was not decided because of this. I'm more so concerned about the fact that some students essentially said Greek life students are minorities and deserve seats because of the same reasons the other community groups need seats. In my opinion, Greek life is not an intrinsic trait deserving of community group seats. But despite this, again, I do believe Greek life needs seats in UPUA because it is a significant part of the Penn State community. It's just different from community group seats in my mind. And I'm looking forward to the Assembly considering policy changes to codify Greek life seats uniquely into the Assembly in a way that's different from like the pre-existing community group seat role.
Thank you. Care, please state your name and your academic college. You'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Hi, my name is Kara Sidhu. I am in the College of Engineering. I am an executive director in the executive branch, and I'm also the interim president of QTPOC. I want to just go based off of what Celeste said before. QTPOC definitely needs a seat, and I also want to touch on the fact that a lot of Greek life members have been kind of bordering on the fact, saying that their identity is very close to a racial identity. I know that no one has explicitly said that, but a lot of people have been getting close to that, and I do want to say that to my knowledge, not a lot of people get discriminated against because they're Greek life in comparison to the amount of POC that get discriminated against. And I think that is a very fine line that people are walking on. And I would just really appreciate if they didn't do so, because as a POC, that is very insensitive and equating our identities to something that you choose to do versus something that we are born with. And that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. With that, I'll leave it open. Is there anyone else here for Open Student Forum?
Lexi, would I be able to say one more thing real quick?
If you want to do it in the capacity of Open Student Forum, feel free to. So state your name, academic college, I'll allow it.
My name is Jake, and I am in liberal arts. I just want to thank everyone for their comments today. It takes a lot, not just to come to this meeting, but to say stuff, and to say stuff that's contradictory, and to say things that might be other people might not like. And I just want to thank everyone for their comments, and I want everyone to know that I am taking everything that has been said today to heart and reflecting on everything that has been done in the past and how I will do what I will do in the future. I also want to make it certain, I want everyone to know that my goal, and I don't think the board's goal, was ever to take away these seats for any long extended period of time or permanently. Our goal was to get these problems fixed and get these seats back. I would also love to see that these seats get codified in the Constitution so this never happens again. And I want to assure everyone that any representative or any member of these councils, that you have my full support in any of that kind of legislation. You have my full support to get your seats back in the future. My goal, even if it sounds weird, my goal was always to help Greek life, to make sure these seats did not get taken away in any other way because of these violations. And I realized I went about that the much wrong way. And I want to, again, apologize for that. But I want to assure everyone that moving forward, my goal is to make sure these seats come back and come back permanently. Thank you, Lexi.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here for Open Student Forum? All right, seeing none, I want to also reiterate saying thank you to everyone that came to speak. Know that that's what Open Student Forum is, and I'm excited to see about 50 people there. So we'll move down the agenda with a report by the President, President McKay.
Yes, I'm sorry. So I'm actually getting a text from the IFC president. I think he has something else to add to Open Student Forum. Would that be too late?
I mean, if he's speaking through you, yeah, I will allow it as long as, again, it's not super long-winded.
Am I on?
Yep.
Okay, so I just wanted to add to everything. And first off, I kind of ran out of time there, but I do want to thank Jacob for stepping up and apologizing and ditto what everybody said on that end. But at the end of the day, there were 6 people that passed this vote. Jacob is only one person, and Taryn is only the other. So I think moving forward, we especially me, representing roughly 3,500 kids, that I would like to hear from the other 4 as well about what led to them making that decision to pass this. And the second thing and last thing I wanted to add is, well, first off, I want to bump everything that was said about our Greek identity. I do want to say that in no way, shape, or form do we relate it to an identity of a person of color. It's more of a student identity, in one way or another. And I can tell you for sure, in the past 4 years that I've been here, Greek life has been a part of my identity as a student here. I've been a president for the last 2 years, and it's been literally my entire life. But moving forward, I think working together, there are 2 things that I think any ideas or any initiatives we as an IFC or Panhellenic or MTC or MPHC want to get done and see successful will not happen without student representation and student support. And the decision that was made by the J board here, and the reason why we're all here, completely and utterly ripped those 2 opportunities apart. So I hope moving forward, those are 2 things that we can all focus on working together with, so that something like this does not happen again. That is all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, President McKay, if you'd like to continue with your report, please do.
Sure. I'd be happy to. There's a lot tonight, folks, so please bear with me. I would first like to thank Dan Murphy for joining us today at our assembly meeting and talking a little bit about his work with the NSO. They've been up to some fantastic work and have really adapted well to an online format. And so I just want to thank him and the entirety of the NSO team and all orientation leaders for helping our students get to campus, whether virtually or in person, safe and sound. On the judicial board decision, I do have a few notes. Prior to this assembly meeting, I, Speaker Zhang, and Representative Bose filed a complaint to the judicial board regarding the decision. As such, I am very grateful to the board to have received information that the date of effectiveness, which this would have gone into effect, has been delayed. As some of you may know, I strongly disagree with the decision based on a variety of issues, but I think I struggle as the president and an organizational leader of the UPUA to think about how I am, and now supposedly was, supposed to ask two hardworking and duly elected representatives, members of our organization, to leave their posts in the middle of their terms. And I would like to keep in mind that very much so, like real government, and frankly, like any occupation outside of the UPUA and Penn State experience, the decisions that we make in these rooms quite often and most often do affect the lives, the mental health, and the overall well-being of others. And I'd also like to just take a moment to address the representatives who would have been affected by this, Representatives Pillillo and Meisner. I can only imagine how you must feel because of this entire situation. I hope that you know that you truly do have a strong support system here, and regardless of this decision and the wake that it brought, are truly valued members of the UPUA and this team which we've built. I will not unnecessarily lose members of our organization without a fair fight, and I am very grateful to the Judicial Board for following those procedures to allow us that chance. I'd also like to take a second and echo the remarks of others who acknowledged and thanked those who those who came to speak tonight and share their thoughts on this decision. Know that you are heard and that your insight will surely be playing a primary role in the work that the UPUA does regarding this decision moving forward. I'd also like to thank, and this is what I was trying to say, Justice Lemler and Samarth for answering the questions which were raised by representatives during their special presentation, and even students during Open Student Forum, and for frankly taking accountability and responsibility. As was mentioned by others, that's an incredibly hard thing to do as a leader. And although our organizational structure might be different than other organizations in that the Judicial Board functions as its own entity, I really do appreciate the fact that you took time out of your night to explain your reasoning and to provide students the solace of hearing your reasoning and your apologies. I definitely think tonight highlighted some broken and incredibly underdeveloped systems within the UPUA which need work, specifically within the judicial branch. And I'd like to take responsibility, since although I don't have a sign on my desk as perhaps other presidents have, the buck stops here. So on behalf of the entire organization, regardless of branch, I want to make sure that the organizations affected by this know that they will be involved in these processes and communication moving forward, especially considering the intersectionality of the organizations which were mentioned and which I think, in my personal opinion, the decision glossed over. I also ask internally with all of you, including members of the legislative and judicial branches, that greater communication and transparency is brought to our own internal functioning to avoid instances such as these in the future. I don't think it's necessarily taboo that I would disagree with another branch, and am grateful to the fact that many of you recognize that that's totally normal. In fact, this, wherever it is, little veto stamp is a sign of my disagreement with all of you, should I ever need to use that. And I think it's very much so a healthy part of our organization's functioning. And so I'm grateful to all of you for recognizing that as well, and for allowing me to share my thoughts. On to some business from this past week and some updates. There was a statement which I'd put out not too long ago regarding 3 different sexual assaults which were reported via Penn State's timely alert system. And I had said that I would interact with student affairs leadership to figure out how we can move forward regarding this. And one of the primary ideas which were brought up by representatives and by Lexi and I on the campaign trail was the need for another sexual misconduct survey on behalf of the Penn State University as a whole. In 2015, the Penn State Sexual Misconduct Survey says that another will be revisited in 2018, but through conversations with student affairs, we learned that the survey was delayed. And although the reasons for that delay are still relatively unknown, I don't think they knew, we will be convening a task force, a group, if you will, of students and those who put together those surveys from Title IX and Student Affairs to ensure that one is put out as soon as possible and that those surveys are implemented in a much more frequent manner and consistent manner so that we can really begin to understand where these sexual assaults are happening, why they are happening, and frankly, how we can go about tackling them when they're not reported through a timely service, because many do go unreported. We also discussed Election Day and the anxiety which many students are facing because of it and the processes which we brought about. I'd like to thank Chair Doherty's advice and suggestions to help promote different graphics which outline the electoral processes and procedures. You know, what can the Supreme Court, ironically, what can the Supreme Court do and not do? What can the president do regarding any outcome of the election in November, all of which I think will help with student mental health in understanding what's going on, as well as making those resources and that data available and well-known by everyone working at CAPS, so that those who are visiting for CAPS chats and the like will be able to find solace in some of that information and reassurance that not everything will go to hell, whatever happens. 3, a student body-wide email was sent out today to encourage students to register to vote. I'll say it again because by the next time we'll meet, the voter registration deadline will pass. The deadline to register to vote in Pennsylvania is this upcoming Monday, October 19th. If you, as a member of the UPUA, have not registered to vote, I don't know why we haven't mandated this, or at least try to find a way to do so. Please do. Your voice matters in this room, but it matters arguably, well, it matters exceptionally so in our national elections. Please make sure that it's heard by registering to vote and by voting by mail, in early, in person, however you see best fit for you and your situation. Let's see. For this past borough council meeting on Monday went very well. We had a work session to discuss the creation of 2 different representatives on the borough council for students. I think we might have had some surprising support from unexpected council members who we haven't always found support with in the past. It was very exciting to see that some council members were very fervent of having 2 reps, recognizing that there's a distinct difference between undergraduate and graduate representatives. But as it was only a work session, it will be coming to the floor this upcoming Monday. And if I believe that's right, but I've asked Chair Doherty to correct me if I'm wrong there. So feel free to come out. It's a public meeting. Share your opinion on it if you'd like, but know that there is support on the Borough Council. And I'm feeling very confident about the fact that they see the importance to having 2. The Finance Executive Director application has since closed. There is 1 applicant for the role, and we will interview them this upcoming Sunday at the steering committee. The website has been slightly updated. We're trying to figure out how we can, based on last week's conversations, implement things like our voting records and our budget and other internal documents on the website in a easy to understand and in a very accessible way. And so we've more or less switched between using Excel and, this is so back-end and maybe not helpful, but Excel and Google Sheets and embedding that onto the website. So the budget, for example, is now, you can just see the budget on the website without getting to, without clicking on any links or anything like that. Same thing with the directory of representatives. Any student visiting here tonight can find their representative on that. And we're looking to do the same thing with voting records and the like by the next time that we meet. And then lastly, the reason I'm wearing a suit, as much as I love a good UPUA meeting, I don't typically dress up for Zooms, Zoom sessions. This morning, I joined the CCSG president, Hiba Akbar, Vice President Sims, Dr. Kelly Walgast from the Penn State's COVID-19 response group, Provost Jones, and President Barron, and others in a roundtable discussion with Dr. Deborah Birx, who serves as the White House Coronavirus Task Force Coordinator, in discussing Penn State's response to COVID-19. This was an exceptionally beneficial meeting because first, I was grateful to see that students were invited to that, but also because we were able to learn and share some information about how we're doing well here and how we can push that to the country at large. For example, I was asked about student experiences in the classroom now and out of the classroom. And generally, I responded that students are, at UP anyhow, generally doing very well in the classroom settings where COVID-19 guidelines are required to be followed, and it's for 3 primary reasons. The first is that students are grateful to the commitment of the administration to advocating and following themselves common sense guidelines such as wearing a mask, practicing social distancing, and the like. We're finding that that rhetoric is incredibly important, and throughout the meeting, Dr. Birx referenced how Penn State's communication strategy, Mask Up or Pack Up, is not only working exceptionally well in terms of reducing numbers at Penn State, but also is being replicated at other universities because of that, oftentimes word for word. For number 2, students recognize and appreciate the sacrifices that are necessary to help keep our communities, our friends, and our families safe. This is not something that we as students, at least I think the majority of us, see as something that doesn't impact others and how we act. And so I've been, from the very start, incredibly appreciative of the fact that students recognize that they need to take the sacrifices, that we all need to take the sacrifices necessary, such as wearing a mask and the like, when with others, and practicing social distancing when with others as well. This has, of course, led to this date, 0 transmissions of COVID known anyhow within the classroom setting, which is arguably very much so something to try and replicate at other universities, and which Dr. Birx was very excited to hear about. And then lastly, students appreciate the many different modes of learning that are provided by Penn State at this point in time, whether remote, hybrid, or mixed, etc. Students who were generally concerned about and would advocate the implementation of a fully online experience, for example, such as myself, have generally found solace in the fact that optional learning services are provided or formats are provided, which without would obviously have a significant impact on the mental health of students. Being told that if you have an underlying health condition, you're still required to show up in person would have significant impacts, as well as not having that opportunity to interact in person would have significant mental health impacts, as we learned not too long ago from our students. Overall, I was very happy with it. I raised some of those points in the hopes that some of them would be brought back to the White House, particularly the rhetoric by the leadership. I think we all came to a consensus that a national strategy and communication effort is absolutely important in trying to tackle this at large. I don't know, one of the things I'm most proud about is to hear she had said several times that if we could only get those 80% of Americans, if only we could get 80% of Americans to follow the guidelines and to want to follow the guidelines off the bat, like we were Penn State students. Even with that survey where 20% said that they weren't so interested in following them, that would be enough to get a handle on this virus. And it's a work in progress, but I'm grateful that students were able to provide input on that as well. I believe that's everything. I would be more than happy to take any questions. I realize I'm taking up way too much time, but thank you very much.
Representative Lascauzo.
Ryan Lascauzo, Lion Pride Representative. Just a quick question for the president. In the event that Borough Council does approve of the student seats, would next Wednesday we be moving to internally elect our Borough Council person?
That's a great question. I believe the process which is being reviewed is that this role for both undergraduate and graduate students would be open to application and confirmation by the assemblies of those two various organizations, though I don't know the exact specifics. I think even if we were looking, I think even if the charter suggested that it would be an internal election, it would probably not be next week just because it's such a quick turnaround time from Monday.
Oh, I just need to, can I do like a little response? That would require a policy change to make it an appointment as it's stated in the bylaws. It's internally elected. I just wanted to inform you on that.
Yeah, I hear you. I think the borough representative is what is outlined in the bylaws, and there's nothing stopping us from appointing a borough representative, but appointing the student representative on behalf of all undergraduate students on the borough council is something that's beyond our governing documents. So in essence, if we were to still appoint a borough representative, they might not be the student representative on the council. You would just have two people. And obviously that's something that we'll have to work out at this Monday, and that if you have thoughts on implementing within the charter itself, I would recommend coming to the borough council meeting on Monday to share. Thanks for the question.
Are there any other questions for President McKay? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to my report. Echoing similar things, I just want to thank Dan Murphy. I know he's not here, but just for always working with students, always advocating for students, and absolutely doing his best while doing so. And I know that takes the utmost strength, especially while going through something like that. So I just want to pour out my thanks to him always. With that, I also wanted to emphasize to Chief Justice Shookman or to Justice Lemler or to Justice Samarth, just to communicate with Nate, with the other justices, simply because he did ask for their reasoning for why they joined the majority. I figured it wasn't really a super great place to do it now, since I don't think any of those justices are on, but just a reminder to continue that communication going forward. A couple things similar to President McKay, attended the similar strategic oversight meeting, which was very interesting. I'm confident going forward that there will be that increased communication, but I feel like that will be an extended conversation as well. So we will always keep you guys updated on that. My work on the 2 search committees are progressing. We are narrowing down candidates, but again, I can't really say much due to the confidentiality, but I figured I would let you know what is going on there. Other things is that Representative Bose will be serving on the Employee Diversity Advisory Training, which their first meeting will be tomorrow from 4 to 5 p.m. Super excited to see the work that she does there, and super excited to have UPUA have a voice on that committee as well. Let's see, a couple other things. So with my email signature, I think President McKay did this before. You can set up a meeting with me through Calendly. It gives you all the available times that I'm available, whichever day of the week. So if you'd like to set up a time to talk to me, please do. Being chair, I really can't say a lot of my opinions on the floor, being that nonpartisan figure. If you ever want to hear my thoughts, that's the time to do it. If you just want to catch up or even meet me, because I've come to realize again and again that I've not met many of you, and it's always been virtual. So if you do want to set up a time, please know that that's a thing that you can do if you go to my email. And other than that, I obviously can't force anyone, but I do encourage you guys to turn on your video. Doesn't have to be the entire time, can be on and off. I know these meetings can get long and we don't see each other in person as is. Thank you guys. So I figured the communication that we have would just be a lot better if we can see each other's faces, simply because we don't do that as much now. But other than that, pretty mellow week this week, which is rare for Zach and I to say, but are there any other questions? All right, see none, we will now move on to liaison/affiliate reports. If you are a liaison or affiliate and you have a report, please raise your hand. Representative Bose.
Erin Bose, Moving On. Moving On has their promo team applications open and live. You can go onto our Instagram or onto our website and apply. Moving On, for those of you who don't know, is the largest student-run music festival. It's a really cool organization, a really cool group of people. If you like music, if you like talking about music, join, and you can also try and put on a student festival.
Are there any questions for Representative Bose? All right, are there any other liaison or affiliate reports? Thomas Bennett, if you could again just state your affiliation to your report as to who you're reporting on behalf of.
Hi, I'm Thomas Bennett, and I'm the liaison for the Performing Arts Council, aka PAC. And we are actually opening up 2 positions on our council, one being the secretarian and historian position, and the other being the sustainability position within the council. And so that application is open until Sunday, which can be found on the PSU performingartscouncil.com on our website. And we are strongly encouraging anyone and everyone to apply and to spread the message. And that's about it from us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Thomas? All right, seeing none, are there any other liaison or affiliate reports? All righty, with that and seeing no old business, we will now move into a 5-minute caucus breakout.
I don't want to keep quiet. You know me. Does anyone think, I have to ask this question. LeBron just won again a championship. Does anyone here defend the fact that he is the GOAT? I just want to know because I
don't
feel
defend it. No.
No, not at all.
What is he, like 4 and 6 in the finals now?
I don't know, man. He's
like I think you can make cases where he's been like the best player of the year or something. Like, of course he's not Curry where he has a superstar team every year. But like this year, if he didn't win it, and like even taking that to 6 games, like I think Jimmy Butler probably outperformed in this series, right? Because he had AD, he had other people that I don't know that were probably better than the Heat. So I think that, I don't know, like I think he's probably the best in the generation, but I don't think you consider him a GOAT.
If he were to win 2 more championships in LA, would that change your decision? Like, and he retired there. Do you think that would change your defense
I think
at all?
he would, if he's with AD, I think he would need to win 2 in a row and not spend any more time there. Like it needs to be a dynasty.
Yeah,
I think.
I respect that. I lived in Cleveland for 2 years whenever LeBron went down to Miami, and while everyone else was burning their LeBron jerseys, my mom said that she would ground me for a very long time if I burned mine. So I've always been kind of a LeBron guy.
Where'd you live in Cleveland?
I lived in Lakewood. There's the west side.
Okay. I was just in Cleveland for the debates.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Where'd you stay? Were you in the city?
No, we were by the airport.
Oh, okay, nice, yeah.
Hello.
Wait, Tom.
Yes.
Westlake is very close to George's Diner. Have you ever been to George's Diner?
Yes, I have.
What are your thoughts on it?
I think there's better places around Lakewood. There's this place called Melt in Lakewood. It's right on Euclid Avenue. I sound like such a Clevelandite right now. I only lived for 2 years, just prefacing. But so Guy Fieri went there, and they have like this challenge in which it's like you can look over now. It's 14 layered grilled cheese, and like you have like 2 hours to finish it. And I was like 12 at the time, and I went like, I can do that. You know, I've had my fair share of Taco Bell in my day. You know, this is a 12-year-old, and so I did the challenge, and I got maybe like a quarter of the way in. But the food there is absolutely amazing. I would highly recommend if you ever go back there. Trying to think about where else there. It's Pittsburgh.
Hey, we can talk Pittsburgh too.
Oh, Pamela's, man. Any day.
Pamela's?
Any day,
Okay.
Pamela's.
I've never been to Pamela's.
You gotta try it. We'll go together sometime. I love Pamela.
Okay.
I've never,
Yeah.
dude. Zach, are you a fan of the Pamela's in Oakland?
No, I just go to the one in Mount Lebanon.
Mm-mm.
It's
Pamela's in Oakland. It has a special place in my heart right next to the O.
See, I don't think that you can go to chains of restaurants that have like one core location, like Permanis. I think Permanis is a great example where if you don't go to the one in the strip, what are you doing?
It's the OG.
You have to go.
But you're not going to be eating good food if you're not going to the one on the strip.
Oh, I love these conversations. It makes the 5 caucus breakout so much better.
And everyone else is just listening to hear us talk about food at places they've never been to and think, what are they talking about?
To the bathroom. Hi, Amy. What else in Pittsburgh? Are you a Minios or a Hellos guy? Or
Never been either.
Are you Fioris?
Well, one place that's really good in Cranberry is Champ's Pizza, but that was just a small place that opened up a few years ago. But they donate a lot of their profits to like autism research and stuff like that. So it's a really good pizza chain and great food, great cause.
Oh yeah,
I recommend it.
There's this diner in Mars. I don't know if you've ever been to it. It's like the really famous diner in Mars. My parents go there all the time. It's like the only real one there, but you should check that one out too. They just have like ones.
Is it the Breakneck Tavern?
No.
Oh, okay.
Not tavern. You know, so like it's like a mom and pop shop.
Tom, if you've been out to Pamela's, have you ever been to Tom's Diner? It's on like the same road.
Yes, I have.
Oh wait, you own a diner, bro?
I do own. I apparently own many things. Have you heard about my trains? Speaking before on sports, did you guys by any chance watch the Dak Prescott's injury? Not good. If you are the kind of people that like to watch gross things, not good.
Like a hometown restaurant that they're just craving right now because they haven't had for some time.
Definitely I think Pamela's. I think absolutely going to downtown Oakland, Pamela's. The first time you go there, you don't realize it's cash only, so you have to walk like 4 blocks. But then like every other time, you also forget it's only cash only, and you know it's a good restaurant if it's a cash only place.
So it's Pamela's, right?
Yes. It's you know like they said our product is so good that we're not going to give you the luxury of being able to swipe a card. You have to go to an ATM to get our service. That's how good the food is. That's
and then they can cook the books on it too and say they only made like $200K when they really made $1 million.
This is true.
I don't know how much time we have left, but while everybody's here, Teams has a new function where you can, if you're on a Teams call, set it up so that everybody looks like they're sitting in chairs. There have been like a few, there have been a few different examples of it made public, but like, would anybody rather do that as opposed to what this function is now, the setup?
Absolutely. That's how they do the NBA finals too.
Okay.
Barack Obama is just in one of the chairs.
I guess you could like high five people and stuff like that. It's kind of hard to do it now because I don't know where Tim is. I mean, Tim, I'm high fiving you right now, but there we go. Todd, we're just patting Jacob Lemler.
Shh, Jacob. Oh, I have to change my screen for the remainder of the meeting. We should do, Tim, we should get, the Pong. I want to see if we can get like a video where it's just going back and forth between our 2 screens.
Oh, that'd be funny. That'd be great if we could time that.
Just perfect. Oh, gosh.
Can everybody hear me? Can everybody hear me? Could someone give me like a thumbs up? Yeah, okay. Sorry, I was just kicked off of my computer completely. But with that, we will now move on to new business with policy 0915, clarification on the eligibility for integrated undergraduate, graduate, IUG students to serve in the University Park Undergraduate Association. Speaker Zong, if you'd like to introduce this.
Yep, Stephen Zhang at large. This is hopefully fairly painless. So basically, IUG students are undergraduate students who are also pursuing a graduate degree. There was an issue that I was made aware of. I didn't know this last year, but apparently there were students who were voting our elections last year who, number one, wasn't sure who to vote for, but number two, also don't necessarily like have access to both of the voting records. So this opened a wider conversation, at least for me, and from GPSA, that students might not also know whether they're able to serve in UPUA or GPSA either. So this just clarifies that IUG students are able to serve in either capacity as a GPSA rep or a UPUA rep, so long as they're completing at least one undergraduate credit, which is more or less how the registrar determines whether you pay undergraduate tuition or not. So this is literally like, this doesn't change anything in the way that people apply or who can apply. It just adds in our constitution, including registered IUG students who are currently taking one or more undergraduate credits, to clarify that. This clause right here is because there's like 60 other places in the Constitution where it says undergraduate students. So I just put all rights granted to undergraduate students in this document, including the right to run for and serve in any position, shall also be granted to IUG students, so long as they're taking one or more undergraduate credits. Really, this again doesn't change anything. We wanted to save it till the end to do a policy change, like at the end of the semester or year. But GPSA wanted to do it ASAP, and they just passed theirs, I hope, an hour ago or so. So this is really just making sure that we're passing the same thing in continuity with them. So yeah, I yield my time for questions.
Are there any questions for speakers on? Representative Liscalzo?
Ryan Liscalzo, Lion Pride Representative. Simple question. Do we have enough people to pass this?
Yeah, I would hope so. Right now the count is 33, and if not, to be honest, like I was toying with this idea for the past two policy changes, but potentially submitting a complaint to the J board that forces almost like a constitutional change that says like people who aren't present for constitutional changes should have the right to vote anyways, because it's 3/4 of the entire assembly and not just, you know, 3/4 of present and voting. So like if people aren't present, and it depends on their membership as well, like I feel like they should vote. So hopefully this passes. If not, I wouldn't like, it wouldn't be like any like hostile complaint, but I feel like it could be worth submitting just to like continue that continuity, especially during Zoom when we can't take account of people who aren't here. But yeah, fingers crossed that we do.
All right, are there any other questions for speakers on? All right, seeing none, is there any discussion? Any discussion? Representative Tierney?
Tim Tierney at large. I just wouldn't want to see us not discuss this, just in terms of, you know, meeting minutes and procedurally. I think it's a great change. I think it's a change that does need to be needed. It isn't a change that is going to affect a lot of students, but the students that it affects, it's going to have a really great impact on the logistics of whether they're served by UPUA or GPSA. So I think it's a great piece of legislation. You know, let's get it done if we have the amount of people here.
All right, is there any other discussion? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close the floor for debate and discussion. And with that, we'll move on to voting. Because this is policy, it is required that it is done so by roll call. You guys all have the privilege to unmute yourself. So please, again, once your name is called, you vote, please mute yourself so there isn't any background noise. But Secretary Thomas, when you are ready, you may start.
RC Kalor, Adeline Mishler,
Yes.
Alexander Wu,
Yes.
Amanda Bird,
Yes.
Amy Gary,
Yes.
Anna Taylor,
Yes.
Anne Marie Brown Sorensen,
Yes.
Blake Tolliver,
Yes.
Brian Schultz,
Yes.
Cameron McColgan,
Yes.
Kara Flegel,
Yes.
Dan Risser, Aaron Bowes,
Yes.
Jacob Klipstein, Jarrell Gibbs, John Mark Miller,
Yes.
Joshua Reynolds,
Yes.
Kaylee Quinnen,
Yes.
Cara DeLucio,
Yes.
Kelly Snyder,
Yes.
Kyle Quinn,
Yes.
Leakin Meter,
Yes.
Lewis Richardson,
Yes.
Emmanuel Alamonte, Marie Meisner,
Yes.
Maddie McIntyre, Megan Dalo,
Yes.
Najee Rodriguez,
Yes.
Noah Robertson,
Yes.
Patricia Barangi,
Yes.
Rainier Foley Di Fiore,
Yes.
Refugio Lara, Ryan Lascalzo,
Yes.
Samantha Brown,
Yes.
Sarah Jordan,
Yes.
Siddhi Deshpande,
Yes.
Sophia Polio,
Yes.
Stephen Zhang,
Yes.
Sydney Gibbard,
Yes.
Tim Tierney,
Yes.
Tom Dougherty,
Yes.
Shirao Shah,
Yes.
Yujin Young, Yuna Choi. Is there anyone's name I missed?
Sorry, I just want to make sure the vote counts are consistent, so give me a sec. All right, policy 0915, clarification on the eligibility for integrated undergraduate graduate students to serve in the University Park Undergraduate Association passes unanimously, specifically with a vote of 35-0 to 0. And with that, we will move on to Resolution 3115, support of Bank of America Career Services resources for students during COVID-19. Chair Mishler, if you'd like to introduce this.
Yes, hi, Adeline Mishler at large. So this piece of legislation comes out of a little bit of partnership and collaboration with Bank of America Career Services. I got to meet with their director I think 2 weeks ago now, where we just talked about some of the pressing challenges that students are facing in this realm of things during COVID. In our early pieces of legislation from this semester, representatives had spoke on the career services realm of challenges, and we wanted to make sure that resources were accessible and relevant for students in this realm. So one of the biggest kind of things that we identified as gaps in an area that career services can be helpful outside of their offerings of virtual services, as well as a little bit of mixed mode in-person things as well. Obviously, I got to check in about the utilization of the virtual career fairs, as well as just some of their virtual programming, and then of course their career counseling sessions as well, which I'm glad to report are being highly utilized, and students are taking advantage of that. So that is great to hear, almost at a normal capacity. So that is great to hear. But one of the areas that we kind of identified where career services could be a little bit more helpful for students, and a gap that students are facing right now, is some of the tangible challenges. So for instance, students maybe not necessarily having a conducive environment or the resources required in their living situations to execute their professional services that they need to, like career fairs and like interviewing. And so traditionally, career services would be utilizing interviewing rooms that they have extensively throughout their building, and have employers and students meeting and interviewing in those, very nice rooms. Those aren't being used to a certain extent. And so during this collaboration, we got to identify that career services can open up those rooms. They had a little bit of infrastructure in place to do that already, and just through some collaboration, we can reach and get it out to students and make this resource known. So students can actually can actually email interviewing@psu.edu, which will connect them to the career services administrative assistant, who can schedule them a room in the Bank of America Career Services building, with stable Wi-Fi, a conducive, quiet environment where they're not disrupting or distracting other students, and of course be only with themselves, so they don't have to come in contact, and we are reducing risk and spread. And also there is staff that are in the building that are able to clean the facilities after a student utilizes it. So this is really great to kind of empower students on their journey, and to make them feel like there's a level playing field regardless of their living situation right now in State College. So this is here, and I kind of also detail just their other resources and services that they're offering and are going to continue to offer. And they're also opening up, I didn't include this, in the near future, to have some I don't want to call it a roundtable discussion, but student advisory boards to give input to employers during this time in the remote environment, challenges that students are facing, and how employers can be more receptive to that and help students kind of navigate on that. So that's something to look forward to in the future. So there's continued areas of advocacy for the Student Life Committee and UPUA at large, but mostly right now, this is really bumping out the interviewing space usage. And I plan to submit, should this pass, to the Department of Outreach to get that on the UPUA social media, so students can know about it and start taking advantage.
All right. Are there any questions for Chair Mishler? All right, seeing none, is there any discussion? Chair Jordan?
Sarah Jordan at large. I just want to say thanks to everyone who worked on this legislation. I know a lot of students have been kind of struggling with doing that online interviews and stuff. So this is a great piece of legislation. Thanks to all who worked on it.
Representative Reynolds?
I just want to quickly say thank you so much to Chair Mishler and Representative Gibbard for the excellent work on this. This is a very key issue for students right now, and I appreciate all the thought that went into this. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Chair Mishler?
Also, of course, I'll be working with the Department of Outreach, as it says in the recommended course of action, to create those graphics, but never underestimate the power that you all have in your connectivity. So if you hear students struggling with anything in this realm, or even just conducive space in general, I know it's kind of always a strategic challenge, having roommates in the off-campus kind of Wi-Fi situation doesn't always seem to be excellent. So push it in your circles as well. Share the graphics on social media, and it's really super easy. All you have to remember is interviewing.psu.edu, and they'll be immediately connected to that scheduling assistant. So awesome. And of course, the library is a resource too, but it's not always the perfect space. Sometimes you can be a distraction to other students. So really encourage students to use this space. And then also remember that there's study rooms in the library too, if we are at capacity or something.
All right, with that, is there any other discussion? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close the floor for discussion and debate. Same thing, I will always repeat it in the case that anyone forgets. Head over to Microsoft Teams, go to the General Assembly channel where Speaker Zong will send the form. Please fill it out when you can. If you have any technical difficulties, just message me directly on Zoom so I can get your vote down. But yeah, head over to Teams, cast your vote, and thanks for being patient.
Rexy, there's no way to do a unanimous, a motion for a unanimous. I'm forgetting with modern rules, because I know it would
I will. Yeah, I will. I did allow it the one time, especially since there is no voice vote over Zoom. That would be a chaotic mess. So I will allow unanimous consent, and then we'll go from there. But if you'd like to motion to do one, please do so.
Motion to pass by unanimous consent.
Is there a second?
Sure.
All right. Is there any discussion on that? The same thing that I do in the beginning with minutes. I'm just going to see if anyone raises their hand for discussion. If I don't, I'm going to take general consensus that this passes unanimously. All right, seeing no hands, Resolution 3115, support of Bank of America Career Services, resources for students during COVID-19 passes unanimously. Never thought I'd hear unanimous consent again. All right, we'll move down the agenda with Resolution 3215, support of Know Your Rights While Protesting webinar. Chair Rodriguez, if you'd like to introduce this.
Najee Rodriguez, College of the Liberal Arts. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Nice to see you all. Just to start off, obviously, this is an unorthodox approach to a new environment and a new realm. As you all know, we are majority online, and we're trying to find new solutions to kind of essentially assist the student body with our advocacy efforts and in terms of informing everyone as a whole. So as you can see in the resolution, you can see certain statistics that are alarming in terms of the knowledge of certain Americans as a whole, in terms of knowing that the right to assembly is guaranteed and protected by the First Amendment. And although there's a gradual rise in that knowledge up from 2017, there's still a low percentage, and that showcases kind of a deficit of information that we can help close. And I'm really excited to kind of explain how we can do that. And I also think it's pertinent to kind of use context to understand kind of the summer and the social unrest that's been taking place across the United States that many of our own students have been a part of, fighting for social justice and kind of overturning the status quo of that injustice and the lack of action that there has been to social justice causes in general. So we're hoping that, especially with the overwhelming consensus as reported by Pew, with 55% of Americans seeing protests and rallies as very or somewhat effective tactics that can help Black students and Black people achieve equality, that this is something that we can hopefully expand on in the context of Penn State and University Park as a whole. And really what I think is cool is that we are working with University Police, more specifically community orientated policing unit officer, Shelly Stavick. And we're also working to kind of snag in student legal services to join in, while also incorporating the Know Your Rights While Protesting guide that the ACLU posted. We see it as a benefit to have Shelly kind of explain and go through kind of the guide as a professional in that realm and understanding kind of law enforcement's role in all of that. We think that it'll be very beneficial for students to really know and how to utilize that form of civic engagement currently, right now, and in the future after they graduate through Penn State. So we've scheduled this, and it's taken like 3 weeks to schedule. We worked with Iris Richardson, the director of diversity, equity, and inclusion within University Police, and Shelly Stavick herself. And we were really excited to kind of compile this all together. And it will be next week, Thursday, October 22nd at 5 o'clock. And we chose that time specifically because it worked for her, and it's also before the community group meetings, and we wanted to make sure that we were cognizant of that. Overall, what will be taking place during this is a PowerPoint underlining the certain points that the ACLU lists as protesting rights, where Shelly will synthesize, as well as hopefully a representative from student legal services, the material, and then we'll follow that with a general question and answer session. It's completely interactive. It's just really a new take on speakers. And it's a new take on the event as a whole, given the circumstances. So if this were to pass, the graphic is already created. And as Adeline emphasized before, it's very tangent on you all sharing that graphic and ensuring that this gets out to the student body. And we really do believe that this is an event that will educate and enlighten so many students on their right to protest. And we think it's really important that we do that as well. And with that, I stand for questions.
Are there any questions for Chair Rodriguez? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to discussion. Is there any discussion? Representative Reynolds?
Hi, I would just like to state clearly that I fully support this resolution because the right to peaceably assemble is obviously protected by the Constitution and it is essential to a functioning republic. And I will be motioning for a vote by unanimous consent after discussion is over.
Chair Rodriguez?
Najee Rodriguez, College of the Liberal Arts. I would just like to make a motion to amend a sentence in the first paragraph. Oh. Thank you, Stephen. Sorry, just to look at. All right, where it says, which in the first sentence, which can be attributed to the exposure of racial inequities in various instances of police brutality, I'd like to motion to amend that to read, can be starting at which can be attributed to systemic racism that includes countless instances of police violence. And I can send that in the Zoom as well if that's easier, or if you need me to repeat it.
If you could send in the Zoom, that might be best.
Yeah, of course.
So like delete this and then countless experiences of police violence?
Yep, I will send that right now.
Representative Tolliver?
Yeah, Najee, I'd first like to thank you so much for creating this, especially the fact that you took into consideration that the community seats meet every Friday at 5. Just knowing at that time specifically, you made sure that you're cognizant of that, and I appreciate that. I got a chance over the summer to talk to Officer Shelly Stavick, and she is amazing, and I'm happy that someone like her is involved in a webinar like this, because with everything going on in State College in terms of decisions made, in terms of the courts and how that is affecting people of color, knowing your rights and knowing how to properly protest and do it in a way that can actually get your points across and make sure that you're being represented. I think that's very important, especially at this point in our lives. So thank you so much, Najee, for doing this. And I'd actually like to sign on as a co-sponsor.
Is there a second for that? All right, and Chair Rodriguez, I'm assuming it's friendly.
I accept that as friendly, yes.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Chair Rodriguez?
No, Rodriguez College of the Liberal Arts. Yeah, I just really wanted to commend Representative Bose for assisting on this. It's really exciting that we'll be able to have this webinar, and I think it's the new normal in the time of UPUA and kind of the virtual emphasis that this year has. I also wanted to keep in mind that we did reach out to the caucuses. We wanted this to be very uniform to correct kind of the wrongs of the past and to make sure that we are being very consistent with this. And I really appreciate the words of encouragement and support. I also did want to bring attention to the fact that it was intentional not to kind of reach out to the State College Borough Police Department at the time. There is a lot of controversy in regards to situations beforehand, and we really just want to be cognizant of what our communities think, and this is the way to do that, and I'm really happy to have this partnership with University Police itself. So thank you.
Is there any other discussion? All right, seeing none, and I do see the motion to vote by unanimous consent. Do I see a second? I see seconds. Is there any discussion on that motion? All right, seeing none. Resolution 3215, support of Know Your Rights while protesting webinar, passes unanimously. All right, and with that, we will now move on with a report by Chief Justice of the Judicial Board. Chief Justice Schuckman.
Hi, everyone. I will do my best to keep my report as brief and relevant as possible. I know that the majority of questions that people had surrounding tonight's meeting and surrounding the decision have already been answered by Jake or Taryn. But again, if anyone has any other questions, please ask them at the conclusion of my report. I first want to address the point that was brought up about the decision being in conversation for months. And I just want to make it clear that what was in conversation for months was individual research that individual justices had performed. This was not official J-Board business, and I did not ask these individual justices to pursue this research. It was purely an individual choice that they had made that I was not aware of, but they had chosen to pursue that on their own time. I wanted to say that although I dissented in this vote and did not agree with any of the reasoning surrounded in the vote, I am the head of the board and I am required to represent the board and communicate our decisions to you all. So again, if you do have questions, please feel free to bring them to me. I think that a lot of important points were brought up tonight, and I do want to thank all of those who had come out to Open Student Forum to share their thoughts. I think that we have really seen a lot of concerns that have been raised by the student body, and I think that moving forward, there are clearly a lot of changes that need to be made to the governing documents, and I hope that this is a conversation that will continue to happen within representatives. So as was mentioned earlier, a complaint was filed to the Judicial Board regarding decision 15-009. According to our governing documents, the hearing must occur within 14 academic days of the complaint being filed. As it was filed today, that means that the hearing must occur by Tuesday, November 3rd. It can certainly happen earlier. The hearing will be scheduled based on the availability of both the petitioning and the responding parties. As Chief Justice, I will be chairing this hearing. So as soon as the hearing is scheduled, I will, of course, communicate it to all of you and to the student body as well. And again, if anyone has any questions about the hearing process or what that's going to look like, I'll also be happy to answer those at the conclusion of my report. At steering on Sunday, I announced that I've been working on the Chief Justice application. This is not related to decision 15-009 at all, but rather related to my upcoming graduation in a few weeks. The application is now finished, and I have sent it over to Executive Director Biswas to be put on the website, and I'm expecting that that will be put on the website sometime over the next day or so. As I said, I will stand for any and all questions that any of you may have.
Are there any questions for Chief Justice Schuckman? Representative Gibbard?
Hi, yeah, Sydney Gibbard, College of Engineering. I was just wondering, can current justices be, I guess, promoted to Chief Justice if they choose to be, or can it only be people outside of UPUA to apply for that position?
Okay, yeah, thank you for that question. So currently, that has never been an issue in the past, I will say. Historically, the person that takes the role of Chief Justice is someone who sits on the judicial board currently. And that is because, in my experience, and in my personal opinion, it is very difficult to serve as Chief Justice if you've never served as an elections commissioner or as a justice. There is just so much that goes into the position, and I struggle to understand exactly how someone who has no experience in election could serve in that role. I'm sure that it could happen, but to my knowledge, in the past, it has historically been someone on the judicial board who ascends to that position.
Representative Bose.
Hi, Rachel. I was just wondering, are the hearings public, or is it just the petitioners and the judicial board?
Okay, thank you, Representative Bose. So to answer that question, hearings are automatically public unless one party requests that they be private. In order to request that it be private, it has to fit, I believe, a certain criteria. So I have not received a request for the hearing to be private. If I do receive that request, I will let you all know, and I will let you know whether that is granted. But as of right now, the hearing will be public. And obviously, just to clarify, it will be over Zoom, of course. So that would be a Zoom link that would be, disseminated.
Are there any other questions for Chief Justice Shookman?
Oh, Chair Pathakul, one other thing, if I could add, Representative Lascalzo said in the chat that it is on the website. So in the last few hours, it must have been put on the website. I hadn't checked in the last few hours, but that's good to hear.
That is good to hear. All right, seeing no other questions, we'll move on to executive reports. Are there any executive directors with a report? Please raise your hand if you do. All right, seeing none, we'll move on to report by the Speaker of the Assembly with Speaker Zhang.
Yeah. Hi guys. Not a ton, but I attended the borough work session on Monday with Chair Doherty, President McKay, and some folks from GPSA. I learned a lot, and it was really cool to kind of see people within the community also stand up for having another seat for the GPSA and graduate students. Again, as they've kind of said, the next borough meeting will have this item on the agenda. So if you want to come out and show your support, go ahead to the State College Borough's website, sign up for the Zoom link, which is going to be, I think, next Monday at 7 p.m. And definitely show up. I have a budget meeting with UPAC on Friday, along with President McKay, Acting Director Troy Mancy, and the UPUA members who are also fee board members. I don't know what to expect. I'm kind of nervous, but at the same time, hopefully it goes well. If our budget disappears next month, I'm sorry about that. Please sign up for one-on-ones. These are required just to check in with everyone, make sure that everything's going well. I'll be meeting with Executive Director Zhao for the First Year Council, as well as Executive Director Biswas, hopefully on Saturday, to kind of shell out the first year program. Legislative ad hocs are now Fridays 4:45 p.m. because I've heard that's a lot easier for a lot of people. Elections code work sessions / office hours are going to be Saturdays from 10 to 11 a.m. I guess the only thing, I sent out an email earlier today about how we're looking to have a internal discussion on anti-racism on the 28th. That's going to be 2 Wednesdays time, 7:30 p.m. So we're going to be looking to have a rather short UPUA meeting. Definitely work with your chairs if you have any time-sensitive legislation that we need to get passed either next week or I guess in 3 weeks' time then. This was a decision made by steering after the events that have happened over the summer, as well as I think addressing a bit about assembly atmosphere and culture, as well as just a lot of introspection on, I think, steering's part. We've been going through what's called the Racial Healing Handbook every 2 weeks, discussing our experiences in America. And I think it's getting increasingly pertinent that anti-racism is something that we discuss. I think it's really sad that our country has devolved racism into a political topic when it really is a human rights and ethics topic that I think everyone should be advocating for. And I really hope that this discussion isn't just going to be, throwing facts and numbers at people, but really just a open discussion from, heart to heart between representatives as much as we can, facilitated by Carlos Wiley, who's very, very good at his job, and I love him. And hopefully we'll get a lot of good discussion out of this meeting, and that we're able to really think about this topic a lot more holistically than inside the political boundaries that we often see it in media and all of that. So if you guys have any concerns, questions about that, please reach out to me. It will be mandated, and we did do it hopefully during assembly time so that people are actually able to make it, or at least I hope that assemblies already sketched out on your calendars every week. But yeah, please let me know if you have any questions or concerns about anything that was in my report.
Are there any questions for Speaker Zong? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to comments of the committee, starting with Academic Affairs. Chair Barunji.
Hi guys, so as always, my full report is in the Teams, but not like a lot this week just because AAC was on a break. Hope you guys all were able to enjoy that rest time and get a few of your tasks done. Again, if you haven't began or completed your tasks, please have them done before we meet again on Sunday. And just kind of some side things that I want the assembly to be informed about is that the university did announce that they will be incorporating wellness days into the spring semester as a way to kind of remedy the whole not having the spring break. All the student senators, if you haven't seen in your email already, the faculty senate assistant sent an email to all of you guys to fill out a survey to give feedback about kind of how this should be executed and how many days we should be allowed. So if you haven't filled that out already, please look in your email and fill that out. And if you can't find it, just let me know and I'll send it over, or I'll just drop it in the AAC Teams. But I have volunteered to sit on the committee that's going to be in charge for planning these wellness days and the execution, and how the faculty should work with the administration and the students to make this a possibility. On the survey, the top number that they had was 5, but I'm going to kind of try to push for as many days as they're willing to allow. So I'll keep you guys updated on how that goes. Hopefully it's successful. It's definitely not the same as having a spring break, but I think it's a step in the right direction, and it's something, because 15 weeks nonstop is just not sustainable for anyone. And then I just wanted to also let you know that where a few of us are working on preparing a report to continue advocating for the time zone attendance leniency. The next faculty senate date is next Tuesday, so we're gonna continue pushing for alternative grading and attendance leniency, and we've come up with a few new and compelling arguments and points to make that hopefully go over well with the faculty, and they're kind of leaning more towards this point. We have Big Ten schools now who have been able to re-implement alternative grading, so we hope that kind of pushes them into the direction of re-implementing it again for the semester. But yeah, I'll keep you guys updated on all of these things and how they go. But that's all I had. If anybody has any questions, let me know.
Are there any questions for Chair Barunji? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to facilities with Chair Jordan.
Hi everyone. As Patty said, my full report's in our agenda this week, but a few quick updates. We had Transportation Commission on Tuesday. Just so you who may live on campus and have a parking pass, as you guys know, parking permits were not reduced this semester, but you can return your permit before you leave in November for a prorated refund. Just go to transportation office, they'll be able to help you out there. A few other things. We have been in communication with Jennifer Geyer, who did speak a few weeks ago at our special presentation. So the bookstore vending machine that's been in the works in the past few semesters, Representative Brown has been working on that, and they hope that it will be in the hub in a few weeks, but he was updated on that. One more thing, facilities members, please add to the Google Doc for what to fix day before committee next week. It's shared in our Google form. Please do that. That was your little homework assignment before Sunday. We'll meet Sunday at 12. Facilities people, I'll see you then. But with anything, I'll stand for questions.
Are there any questions for Chair Jordan? Seeing none, we'll move on to governmental affairs with Chair Doherty.
Hi guys. Just really quickly on the lines of like PSU votes and registration over these last 2 weeks, it's looking really good on campus. We're seeing a lot of people already have registered to vote, most likely due to all of the other factors that are affecting the media right now. I mean, if you go on Apple Music, some albums literally have a vote sticker on them. The artists have agreed to put on there. And so we're really happy to see that effort. And also today I got some statistics from Students Demand Action, in which they've been out at the resident halls for the last 5 weeks registering students to vote. They started off with like 25 people registering per day per person, and now it's looking more like they're only having like a couple a day per person that they're registering, which is really good news. I'm going to be doing a lot this weekend before Wednesday, trying to knock on some doors, trying to get as many people registered to vote, just people I see on the street. Today I was able to get like almost 500 people say that they're registered to vote just by walking around campus a couple of times. So it's a really cool time. And then please also use Motivote. We invested the money in this. You can at least give it a try. But besides that, just a fun little update as well. So as you know, it is spooky season. So what that means is that we are gonna, I and the steering committee is going to be, we're gonna be hosting a Halloween costume contest this upcoming assembly meeting. I'd say Steven's really happy about my backgrounds. So what this means, guys, is that I've gotten a trophy. Yes, a trophy. And if you are not currently at Penn State, I will ship it to you. This is how serious I am about this. I want everyone's screens to be on. I want people to be dressed up. If you want to go with a partner, you guys can both win the trophy, maybe share it. Maybe some people get it on weekdays, weekends, you name it. But please dress up. I think it'll be so much fun. Steering will make the decision during the caucus breakout. We can have everyone just kind of like sharing their screen and say what they are and everything. Still waiting to hear back from people. I would love if any suggestions in the chat for what I should go as, but I hope this will be a really nice way for us to all kind of get in the spirit of Halloween together. Please make sure your costumes, though, are appropriate. Remember, another person's culture is not a costume. So please make sure that we are having a good time. We're having a good time. We're making sure that we are being appropriate in what we are doing. So please, if you feel inclined, please dress up. It's going to be so much fun. I don't know what I'm going to go as yet. Please put some recommendations in ad hoc on dinosaurs. I'd love to go as something.
Are there any questions for Chair Doherty? And as a note, there's a new Zoom feature where you can change where people are on their screen. You can drag and move them. So if you want to do partner one, it's possible to present each other at the same time. So I think that's cool. But with that, we'll move on to Committee on Justice and Equity with Chair Rodriguez.
Hi everyone, happy Wednesday. So glad we all made it to the end. Just a few quick updates. I'm really excited to announce that Chair Mushler and I met with the Director of University Health Services and the Senior Associate Director to kind of discuss the feasibility and logistical possibility of creating a way to subsidize physicals for students that are uninsured. And it seems very promising. So very excited, as this is kind of like a passion project. Really excited to see what Chair Mushler and I can do moving forward. Please feel free to let me know if you'd like to jump on. Native American Heritage Month is coming up in November, and I've been having discussions with Vice President Pathical and Tim, who is the president of the Indigenous People Student Association, about ways that the UPUA can assist in amplifying their organization and their advocacy. So we have some ideas that we'll be sharing on Friday at JNE's meeting. I met with Krista Beisinger of Student Disability Resources to kind of discuss the future of our relationship. She's excited to look forward to kind of the new ways in which we can support each other and expand advocacy efforts for their office in the form of graphics and even an informational webinar for that office. So really excited for that. Huge thanks to the team that put together the last Women's Empowerment Roundtable, which met on Monday. Seriously, a great job, you guys, and I can't wait to see what continues to go further with that initiative. And last but not least, I've been speaking to Representative Lascalzo on and off during this meeting, and on Friday at JNE, we'll be kind of discussing more details to the governing documents and the changes that we have been planning to implement these past few weeks. If you're not in JNE and if you're interested in attending, please contact me for the link, or I'll post that in the Teams. Originally, the intent was to, again, abolish that 2-year stipulation. However, it appears that this meeting will be kind of delving further into the intricacies that exist and how to kind of embolden and separate those groups to kind of deter the kind of crisis that we saw tonight in some way. So again, if you're interested, please let us know. We'll be dedicating some time during committee to discuss that and hopefully formulate a solution more quickly. That being said, have a great Wednesday. Enjoy your Thursday tomorrow and stay healthy and safe. Good night.
Are there any questions for Chair Rodriguez? Then you just put his number in the chat if anyone didn't see. But with that, we'll move on to Committee of Student Life with Chair Mishler.
Hi all, Adeline Mishler at large. First, so sorry about the confusion because I know that it caused some logistical nightmares, but we got students to our meeting, so that was really cool. And you know, although it was highly embarrassing for me, I'm taking it as a lesson in you connect with one person and they connect to another and to another and to another and to another. So if this were like our graphics, we did a really good job tonight. So we're gonna do it again every single week. I'll see you guys here every single week. Okay, perfect. Also, the person who's not Adeline Mishler in the chat, you also seem pretty cool. Let's grab coffee. Let me know you know where to find me. Okay, perfect. Next, also would just like to point some attention to Steven's virtual background. We'll talk about that at a later date, maybe in like a closed session. All right, snacks. Jumping right into my report here. Najee and I have been Chair Rodriguez and I have been working on this really cool insurance initiative. We've been pouring a lot of energy and effort into it. So hopefully that will be matched here pretty soon. Can't wait to see about how things are going to take shape there. Obviously, I'm not going to dive into the whole thing. Najee did a pretty good job. Last week, our mental health team was really able to get organized and really mobilize around a couple different kinds of prongs of our advocacy and work. We're going to be jumping back into that next week. We have some programming events already in the works, thanks to Lexi with some help on that stuff. But if you continue to have, ideas on how we can connect and reach students in the mental health realm, we have a whole team of reps that would love to hear with you, talk with you, meet with you, and me as well. I attended a webinar hosted by the Chronicle of Higher Ed, just to kind of get some insights to mental health at other campuses and how they're kind of overcoming some strategic issues. So that was always good to hear, and that can help me in some of my conversations kind of at large with mental health this year especially. I know that there's been some conversations with the new kind of announcements surrounding spring and how that will go with the implementation of these wellness days. I plan to have conversations with administration to make sure that those are effective and those are being properly executed at the university's level. And obviously there's an opportunity for UPUA to continue to serve students on those days. So that's also, if that's an area of interest for you, that's something that the mental health team will be talking about. Please come to us, even if you're not on the student life committee and have an interest, in the flow and execution of that spring semester, those 15 straight weeks. We would love to hear from you. I'm very cross committee oriented, so please come to us. I met with the Alumni Association today just to continue to forge connections and see how we can kind of better the underclassmen, the undergraduate experience this year in these unprecedented times, and talking to new perspectives. That was kind of a lot, but I have two really important things to continue with that are kind of outside, not this first one. So the first one is that I canceled committee early in the week, because even though in my report I was like, yeah, committee this week, let's go. I decided to cancel because the PRCC pep rally is happening on Thursday directly when our committee meets, and it's happening in person, and that's kind of a rare little gem here at Penn State. So I really think it's a great opportunity, and I know that all of the student life reps are available because you guys come out to committee, to go out to that event instead. So we're going to do the virtual-esque hybrid platform for our committee. So I need you to be engaged in the team so we can effectively do that. We're going to do the chat feature again with the reports and collaborate with the reps via that chat, comment on people's reports. So I know that you guys are, know what other reps are up to, and also say, what you're working on. So others know that too. And then we'll probably do some sort of chat feature about that event. It'll be like streamed on the PRCC's Facebook, and it's happening in person outside on Hublon. So you have options if you're here at University Park and feel comfortable to go. See you there. If you aren't comfortable to go, watch it streamed. If you're not at University Park, watch it streamed if you are able. So we'll do a little bit of talks around that. Then this is the last thing, promise. There's been a lot of changes happening surrounding testing. And so like, for instance, we were going to bring legislation today about it, and then figured it probably wasn't the best thing to do with the day and just everything that's going on. So I wanted to just talk about it in the report, and then maybe we'll see something in the weeks coming. We're also trying to do a point of advocacy around it too. So hopefully there's more to build. So just holding off on that, but I want to make sure that you guys are educated and can kind of go out to your communities that, and I'm sure you're aware. So continue to be aware and reading up on things and engaged. But some of the testing sites has changed as we move into the colder weather, moving those outdoor testing sites to indoor, like Pagula and Beaver Stadium, and alumni. Continue to remind and engage students in the surveillance testing when they're receiving emails to follow those protocols. And surrounding symptomatic testing and contact tracing testing, there's a lot of discrepancies right now regarding the whole insurance thing. So we'll talk more about that now, but later, we'll talk more about that later. But if you know someone who is asymptomatic, continue to push that there is free testing. Pagula is really the place that I would recommend going, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. 7 days. There's also sites just for employers. I have a document with this all kind of laid out. So if you have questions on the testing, or if you're interested in the whole kind of insurance stuff that's going on, I'm not an expert in the realm, but I'm trying to get there. So come along with me and we can try to work it out. Yeah, that's really it. So get on Teams to do your stuff this week, student life. Thanks again. Sorry, also not sorry, but sorry for the headaches.
Are there any questions for Chair Mishler? Representative Lascalzo?
Ryan Lascalzo, Line Pride Representative. Just a quick question, which your report kind of made me think of, but I don't know if you're the exact right person to ask, is so the wellness days in the spring are going to be occurring in like the middle of the week. What will the UPUA be doing? Because I feel like that would probably happen a lot on Wednesdays, and we wouldn't necessarily be able to meet then, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so in terms of how UPUA will navigate its operations, that's a really great point that I haven't even thought of. We'll take that with the executive leadership and the speaker who kind of gets to navigate that. Great point. And then in terms of the other stuff, I'm not 100% fluent yet. I don't think that the university is 100% fluent yet in the days that it's going to be happening, and how frequently. There are some other universities, like University of Pittsburgh had a wellness day yesterday, even in this semester. So it is happening at other universities, and I'm continuing to get educated in that to see what's working well at other schools. I'm not guaranteeing that it's going to be on every Wednesday, and I'm assuming it's going to rotate. But as to what the UPUA can do, that is what I'm going to start asking questions about. Obviously want to be cognizant of our delivery and should we do remote things, hybrid things, essentially. And I think that the sentiments were all expressed in kind of a casual conversation that we had as representatives. We don't want these days to go to waste. We don't want these days to be taken advantage of by our academics. We don't want okay, yeah, do this on your wellness day, submit your essay by 11:59 on the day that's a wellness day. We know students are just going to continue to work through those, and it's really hard to turn Zoom off in this environment. So yeah, that's the question that's happening. We have a meeting on Friday with admin to talk about some recommendations for the spring, hoping to bring up these conversations, and then we'll ultimately create a larger conversation about what's possible. And then we'll of course get feedback from the reps on what we want to see out of these days to make sure they're worthwhile and effective for everyone.
Are there any other questions for Chair Mishler? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to comments for the good of the order. I just wanted to start, I feel like I was bursting out in random laughter, but it's because of the Zoom backgrounds changing. I've been told I have a poker face, but there are little things that will break it, and that was it. So thanks for bringing humor there, but Representative Bose.
Hi everyone, Erin Bose at large. I just wanted to touch briefly on the employee training advisory committee that Vice President Pathical had mentioned that I was appointed to. It's happening tomorrow from 4 to 5 p.m. Just to give a little bit of a background on it. One of the president's key initiatives is to work with the University Faculty Senate, Staff Advisory Council, student leaders, and university administrators to implement mandatory bias training for all university employees in the coming months. I know that this is a topic that all of us are very interested in, and it's exciting to see a little bit of progress made on that front. However, I'm just here to be kind of the transmitting voice about it, so I want to make sure that everyone has their equal say and knows every single step of the way of what's going on. So I'll make sure to take some notes during the meeting, voice them out, send them in the Teams or anything like that. And then I can also, if anyone's interested, set up some workshops or something so I can get the collective feedback of the entire group. But I'm excited to serve on it and let you guys know what's happening about it.
All right, Representative Lascazzo.
Ryan Lascazzo, Lion Pride Representative. Just wanted to remind you all this month is LGBT History Month. So the Center for Sexual and Gender Diversity has a ton of upcoming events. There is International Pronouns Day in a week. There is some intersectionality type of events going on, healing for POC communities, and just a bunch of other events this month that are going on. You can look it up if you go on to, I believe it's on their website. I'm subscribed to their email, so I always get things through their email. Other things, as Najee mentioned, I've been kind of working with him on some community group stuff. Originally, it was just supposed to be getting rid of the 2-year strip end, but we kind of discovered some of the issues that were kind of written in the community group documents, and we were trying to figure some of them out, and some of those issues kind of came up tonight of the stuff that we kind of discovered, but we didn't think things would come up, so we didn't work on it yet. We hope that because we're already working on this, we can all work together to try to bring us all together and help solve that in the future. So come Janie on Friday. I also wanted to remind everybody about your mental health and to be healthy and to just take a step back. It's very stressful times. And then finally, I just want to thank everybody for the great improvement in the assembly environment. I remember at the beginning of the semester, we all there was a lot of tension, a lot of anger. And I feel just looking at the end of this meeting, looking at whatever's behind Steven, things like that. It's just or the dozen Adelines. It's I feel like we've come a long way, and I think we've really come together as a group and really have improved as an organization.
Are there any other comments for the good of the order? All right, seeing none and seeing that Secretary Thomas has already taken closing roll call. Oh God, all right. The meeting's adjourned at 10:07 p.m. Have a great night, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Have a good night.
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye.
The fact that Steven actively changes the photo. And then you're having like a serious conversation.
I was looking and I was like, there's one. And then I looked again like 3 minutes later and then there was two.
It's kind of like the Adelites. It's kind of like, oh, you thought, and then you thought, oh, and then it.
I blame Zach for not changing his profile picture in the middle of steering. Like, this never would have came up. And he was just like, oh yeah, it was this Bratz thing where like there was a bear and it's a Bratz doll, and we're just all like, what the heck? Like,
yeah.
Oh, man.
I still am confused. I just pretended like I got it.
Like I don't know if it's a bear or a person or a bear person. It's like a little bit of both.
What's the conversation about the Bratz doll? I don't.
Oh, the Bratz doll. I got that. Don't worry.
What's the correlation?
Crap.
Three. I don't know why.
Where is there a Bratz? There's not a Bratz doll, Zach.
Is it like a Bratz doll accessory or something?
It's on the top of the tree.
What?
What?
Yes.
What?
He lost his mind.
The tree behind Tom. It's on the tree.
The fact that
Tom just has to change
into steering with this picture as his like background or his like profile picture, not even his background, his profile picture, and we were like thought it was hilarious, and Zach like came with this like formal apology. Like, I don't care. He's like, I'm so sorry about this unprofessionality. I'm like,
oh my god.
Zach was probably grabbing official resignation.
One night, the 1 week I missed, you guys have all of this.
Patty's completely in the dark on this.
Because also they've been sending references about this in the steering group chat like all day, and I like looked up Bratz doll bear, and I was so.
This is it. This is the Bratz doll.
I'm gonna send you guys a picture in the fun group me of why I almost started crying of laughter, because the picture I got, it looked like they're having a staring contest.
At background, because that was Tom's profile picture at the beginning of the meeting, like when his camera was off, and I screenshotted it because I was laughing so hard. Honestly, amazing.
Good night, everyone. Stay safe.
Night, Zach.
Good Zach.
Good night,
Zach, where are you trying to go? Okay, bye. What?
Gathered his resignation. He's given up because of the image.
That's in the minutes. That's in the minutes. There's also 2 Lexi Pathicals, no transparency, by the way.
And the way that no one said anything about it, but everyone was so fixated on the Adelines. That's
like
29
There's
Adelines.
2 Lexis though.
There's 29 Adelines. That's the important thing. I counted exactly. Actually, no, wait. There's 30 Adelines. So I didn't count you, Adeline.
I kept because the thing is, I just want everyone to know. I want everyone to know that I can't message just the attendees. It has to send to the panelists and to the attendees, and so I'm like sending, and then they're like,